Yay, Tiffany.
Oh, I have to click OK.
Oh,
Hey, Zach.
hey.
Good
Uh,
to see you again.
yeah, you too. What's up? How have you been?
Been good. It's been a lot of stuff happening. Latest that me and my fiance Justin moved to Anacortes, Washington, so we've been really loving it here. Um, and we're getting married in October, so I'm really excited about that. And yeah, I mean, we just did a major move, and I think it was fun settling down and getting to know the place. Work is going good. I've gotten obsessed with baking again, which I can't talk
Wait,
about.
wait, can I ask you about, I think I saw you post some photos of your drive, like you moving. You got like stuck in a
Oh,
snowstorm or something. How was
yeah, that
that?
was a whole ordeal. That was awful. So basically what happened was we he Justin drove the U-Haul and then I drove our car. And then basically around Eugene, Oregon, or maybe actually before Eugene, Oregon, there was like a huge snowstorm. So basically we just hit standstill traffic for like the first day was 4 hours. We just like no movement whatsoever. And I have pictures to prove this. And then so I decided stupidly to take a side road around, like, because my GPS said this is faster and I can hopefully cut through the side road and then exit and enter into the other town. And so that night it was pitch black and I took a side road, stupid because those roads aren't cleaned and there's black ice on it. And so another stoppage happened where there was a truck that was stuck in them, and it's like a one-way dirt road, like the GPS took me. So there's like a giant truck that was stuck. So that blocked it for another hour and a half. So I was just like sitting in my car and I'm like, great, I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere. I'd rather be on the freeway. Now I'm separated from, I mean, Justin and I were already separated a little bit just because I was driving faster than him. But now, when I tried to move my car, it was I could feel it slipping, so I was freaking out. Like I was like, I'm scared to move my car. Like I don't know. And there's like cars behind me, and some cars are like making U-turns and going around. And I was like, I'm too scared to do a U-turn. I don't have snow chains. I'm not, I'm from San Diego. I don't know how to drive in snow. I know I'm such a wimpy San Diego girl. And so finally, I think the tow truck came and they were able to get the truck out of the way. And so I managed to get past. And so that night, I was like, I'm not even gonna try staying in traffic anymore. So I just last minute found an Airbnb and went all the way back to an I forgot what the town name was, but it was a small town. Stayed in Motel 6 the first night, then moved two Airbnbs the following days after. And then Justin, on the other hand, slept on the freeway the whole night in the U-Haul, freezing cold. And he somehow managed to get to Anacortes, which is like 8 hours or more drive, by the next day. So he made it and then he unloaded all our stuff. And then it started snowing in Anacortes. So good thing he did because it'd been really hard to move stuff in the snow. And then I just came up like 5 minutes later. And I tried 2 days. The next day I tried to leave again. And then the next day and both days I got stuck in standstill traffic for 4 hours. So both days I circled back to the town before and it was just like miserable, just like going around in circles.
That is insane. You chose the
I
wrong
chose the
time to
worst time to come, like the
move.
one weekend that there is a snowstorm. We chose that weekend to go up, and then afterwards it was better. So yeah, it was quite an adventure, but at least we can look back and be like, yeah, this happened.
Wow. Do you get
Yeah.
much, so where you're living, you get a lot of snow? Or is it just the place that you like had to drive through?
Here I don't think in Anacortes it's mostly like windy and Washington weather is kind of cloudy. But I mean, I think it does snow, but where it didn't snow that much in January. Oh no, you froze, Zach.
Oh, I'm frozen?
Yeah.
Oh no, I can still hear you okay. Maybe it'll
Oh, I
come
can
back.
hear you okay too.
Yeah,
You're
let's
just
just, as long as we can hear, it's okay.
yeah. Yeah. I feel like
Um,
my shirt's inside out, but whatever. It's
no,
too late now.
you look good, and your background looks very nice. I like the
Yeah, I just
painting.
have my fake background of
I
my
wanted to see your studio because I saw
I
pictures. It looked
know.
looking
You know
nice.
what? I could turn it off.
No,
It's just
only if you want to. I don't know. Is it a
a little
mess?
bit of it's okay. It's let me see how it looks like. Um, background, virtual back. How do I do a non-virtual? Oh, none. There you go. It's just weird. Like you can see
Oh,
my kitchen. There you go. I need to like angle it more.
wow, it's
Yeah.
looks like a nice spot.
Yeah, there's my studio, guys, and you
Wow.
can should be like a wall right here for my kitchen, but I can just leave it there. It's a yeah, I have like 5 books open as you can see because I um that's my like my little reading corner and that's my bookshelves and then behind is my painting studio. So, yeah, you can kind of see everything, which is
Wow,
cool,
that's
but
nice.
yeah, it's been a really fun project kind of forming that. It's been I should show you pictures, Zach, of how my studio started off at my parents' place when I lived at home not too long ago.
Hmm.
And it was just like a little table surrounded by couches that no one sat at. And then at our previous place in San Diego, we had like no kitchen table and basically my stuff was right by the kitchen, just not very, I guess, sanitary. But yeah, I feel like turpentine and stuff. I mean, I kept it covered and it was a small 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom apartment. And then yeah, so this one, it's been finally nice to have some bigger space. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're in
Yeah.
Tad's place, right? Right now?
Yeah, I'm in Tad's place, slash my place. But yeah, I'm
Yeah, tell me a
here.
little bit about that because I know can I say it or no? I know you bought a place.
Oh yeah, yeah, you can say, yeah.
Oh, okay. And wait, I want to say Utah, but that's not. No, Utah, right?
Yeah, Utah.
Yeah, how's that been going? I know
Uh
you're like doing renovations and stuff.
yeah, that's why I'm not there right now. So um I live my house is like up in the mountains and
That's amazing.
yeah, there's they're putting in like solar panels because it was like underpowered a little bit and I didn't want to have to like worry about losing electricity when I'm trying to like work and stay warm. But yeah, I'm getting a bunch of work done on it, so it'll be like all set up.
Did you
Um,
take before and after pictures?
yeah,
Because that's gonna be fun
yeah,
to see.
yeah. I'm gonna have to post online, show like the progress. It's yeah, it's gonna be really awesome.
Oh
And
my goodness, that sounds
uh,
amazing. That's like the I would love to renovate a house and I mean, it sounds a lot of work and fun, but what plans are you by the way, you're so frozen, so I'm talking to a frozen Zach. It's like
has it been frozen this whole time?
yeah, I just didn't want to say anything.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah, like kind of
wonder,
like
making like a stupid face.
it's a
Uh,
normal face. It's not too stupid. I'm just kidding.
let me pause the recording and let's see. Okay, we good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think it's just a glitch. I think we're all good now.
Okay.
Um,
But yeah, you're
yeah,
talking about your renovations and stuff.
yeah. So the plan is, like the house is in really good shape. There's like a couple things I want to put in, like nice hardwood floors. I'm put in a new wood stove, like a bigger, better one that'll just like heat the whole place. I want to put in a hot tub like on the
Oh, wow.
because there's this incredible view of just like trees and mountains. So I'm gonna put a hot tub out there
Oh
so you can
my
just like
goodness.
chill and like watch. Um, what else? I think that's the main thing. And then my studio space, like the whole house is open. It's like this big like
Open,
log
open.
cabin.
Yeah. Open
Um,
floor plan. That's what they call it. Open.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a loft upstairs, which is my gonna be my studio. And I have windows like all around where I can see like the mountains, the trees, like on all sides of me. Um,
Wow.
so I'm gonna turn that into like a nice studio space.
I'm
And
so excited for you.
thank
I
you.
can picture it in my mind as you're describing it. It's like my dream. I don't know if you're gonna do this. I don't know if you're into saunas, but I would love to have a sauna in my future home. That's like something we've talked about. We're like, oh yeah, we would totally add that in a dream place where we had enough money. But leave it next month. But that
Yeah.
hot tub sounds amazing.
Yeah. But yeah,
Awesome.
I'll have you and your fiance out once it's all set. You guys,
Yes, yes, I will tell him for sure. I have not, I don't know. I've been to Utah before, but yeah, no, no, no. That's stupid. Obviously, I've been to Utah. Um, but where are you in Utah again?
I'm a little south of Provo.
Oh, okay. Funny thing, when we are deciding where to move, I was debating between Washington and we were looking into Utah because I heard that it's like cheaper there.
Mhm.
And there's quite a lot of artists there and like the school I teach at Sentient is there and like David Dibble and I think he's there and Josh Clear and some other people. So I was like, oh, okay. Um could be cool, but I think we just in the end didn't know enough about it, I guess. But you're in Arizona before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
I was
kind of
in northern Arizona, Sedona. So I was just looking around all of that area, like Utah, Idaho, Colorado, just for like cool places.
Colorado, I heard is pretty expensive.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
their taxes are pretty high. I think
Yeah.
Utah, um, t- taxes are low there. Like property tax was a big thing for me. Like
Uh-huh.
my property tax is like basically nothing. Like it's
Wow.
crazy.
Okay. Okay. Nice.
Like my house in New York, um, the house is half the price, but the property tax is like six times as much. Like it's
Wow.
insane.
Wow. Wait, hold up. You have a house in New York too. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a place in New York, the place my brother and I got. So
That's awesome. All right, you gotta teach me some real estate skills off screen. So
yeah, yeah, we can do that.
that's cool though.
Um
That's cool. That's cool.
so
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. You were one of my first friends when I moved to LA. I
No
forgot
way,
exact
really?
yeah, because I forgot exactly how we met, but um do you remember when I lived in Santa Monica, we would go like plein air sketching and stuff?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think what I remember is that I found your work online. And this was when I was living in LA and I was like, oh my gosh, I love his work. And then I think I messaged you or something. 'Cause that's what I do. I just like message people and I like them. I'm like, hey. And then I remember when you actually responded, I was like, oh my gosh, he responded. This was like 2015 or something. Cause I remember which apartment I was in. So it had to be before Loving Vincent. So like 2015 or something like that. And then we
Mhm.
did a table together, right? I remember at CTN. And then we
Oh
taught
yeah.
at the Art Institute. We did that workshop.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got a history.
I know it's like almost 10 years.
That's crazy. I remember the first time I did a table with you. Um, I was like a nobody and you're kind of already, kind of famous. And I think remember from that one day, I was like, I got like 100 followers or something. I was like, oh gosh, it's great doing a table with someone that's more well known because I'm just like getting all the followers at you. That was one of the I remember because that was just when I was starting out or something. But yeah, it's been a long time. And then we're just at Icon Manila, which is awesome.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that
So
was fun.
that when I first met you, you were mostly like a fine artist, right? At that
Yeah, I've had a
time?
crazy journey.
Yeah, what was that like going from like fine art to getting into Viz dev?
To be honest, and I've shared this with my students, but I think I have a pretty unconventional journey where I think so when I graduated college, I studied animation. So there wasn't any painting classes or phys ed classes at all, really. Maybe like one at USC, and so I didn't know anything about like design and phys ed and anything. But I just knew that I didn't want to be an animator. So I think I kind of had a late start that way. And then all my friends who went to USC, like they were going to art center, but I was like, I don't want to spend money on that. So um, I think my first gig coming out of college was just working on a game that me and my ex-boyfriend had started, or he started, and we got yeah, long history. That's we have
I'm gonna say, what is that comic? That was also a movie, Scott Pilgrim, like the evil exes. That's
oh
what that
yeah,
reminded
yeah.
me.
He wasn't the evil ex, he was, like, the nice ex, but we
Okay.
just didn't compatible,
Yeah.
not compatible. So we were together for 7 years, I think, crazy. I'm a long-term person, apparently. Um, and so, yeah, I was just, like, a really crappy artist and just, like, doing art for the game, and we were, what do you call it, funded by a company, but then the company went bankrupt. And then I went to Loving Vincent, and that was, the event that changed my life. And that was what really got me into fine art because I think working on a film that was, a combo of animation and painting, and then being surrounded in this melting pot of artists, like super talented artists from all around Europe. I remember that was when I was, working hard, painting frames, and then, like, every weekend I go out and paint around Gdansk and bring my gouache paints, and I tried to get friends to paint with me, and that was where I think I was really getting practice in. My paintings were still crappy, but I was getting practice in, and so when I came back from Loving Vincent, I was like, "Gosh, like, I think I wanna dabble into the fine art world," just because everyone on the film was fine art, like, they weren't, an animation. Um, so I moved back home. I worked at a company for a little bit, but we don't need to go into that. Um, then I moved back home, and then that was when I got a studio with 2 friends, and then I learned the world of, creating paintings for shows and applying to plein air competitions and all that stuff, which was really new to me. And then that's when I needed to make money. So that was the time where I was like asking anyone and everywhere, like, hey, can I teach here? Can I like run a workshop? And I think I'm really thankful for these opportunities because I think that was what made me have to work harder to just sort of get these opportunities and not be afraid to ask. I'm not really a person that's afraid to ask. I think I'm kind of more the person that doesn't quite overthink things and just does it. It's good and bad. But I remember I was asking like art supply studios, like, hey, can I teach a workshop at the back of your place? Some of them would say no, some of them would say yes. And then slowly I realized that I really enjoy teaching. So that's when I started teaching. I never really taught before that. Um, and then yeah, so that was, I think that was a time when people thought I'd left animation, and then they thought I had just, like, gone into fine art, which I guess I did, but I was still freelancing a little bit on the side for commercials and doing art for, like, little commercials here and there and backgrounds. Um, and then basically I moved to Poland for another relationship, don't need to go into that unless you want to, and then it was oh, yeah, I did. And it was then that, I realized I'm like, "What the heck am I supposed to do in Poland?" I don't speak the language, I can't work, so that was when I started my own mentorships, and, that I think I am, if I can say I'm pretty proud of that because it was kind of the thing where I was like, "I don't know what's gonna happen," but I sat down and wrote a thesis about what I would offer to the table because there's so many awesome teachers out there. So for me, coming from like a gouache in a digital world, like a traditional digital world, I saw that there was digital artists that were kind of afraid to dabble in traditional. And then there's traditional artists, when I taught gouache workshops, they were afraid to, they were like curious about digital, but afraid. So I thought, what if I created a mentorship where I could show both ways and talk about how I connect, both concepts together. So that's how that started. And then that took off. And then in 2000, I think it was 2020, 20 or 21. I think my first gig gigging back was I did a few concept pieces for Shawn Mendes' album randomly, like Universal Music Group reached out to me. Not proud of any of those pieces, but that was cool. And then Cartoon Saloon reached out to me. So that was like my in back. And that's a crazy story because I had applied to them a lot of years back and I didn't hear from them. And then they reached out to me because I guess my stuff was on their backlog. And so they reached out to me one morning. I still remember that morning. I woke up and I got an email and they're like, it was like background supervisor, Cartoon Saloon Dog Ears production. I was like, what? Did I read this correctly? Like they're asking me. And funny story with that is that they wanted me to be background supervisor, but I couldn't move to Ireland. It would be like a year and a half there just because of where I was in life. I was dating Justin and I was also teaching my gouache mentorships. I had like my whole setup in my parents' house. And so they basically made me like production designer slash color key artist on the cartoon saloon side. And I was able to work from home. And that's basically what launched my love for color keying, and then after that, I worked at Marvel, and now I'm at Premise and Titmouse, so, um, I'm pretty relatively new, I would say still, I would say, to the industry. I'm not seasoned like you yet, Zach, but yeah, that was my in back. That's like a nut my journey in a nutshell.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Nutshell.
Yeah, it's such an interesting path, and it's cool that you combine like the traditional and digital. Like that's something we have in common because we both
Yeah,
have a love for both.
exactly, exactly.
So where do you get your work ethic and motivation from? Because for me, it comes from fear. And I think this is something we have in common. Like we're both working on multiple projects, teaching, like just working all the time. At least it appears that you're just like doing so much. When we were at like Icon Manila, you were teaching
I
after
was teaching.
teaching like online. You do your
Yeah.
thing, you do the event, and then you go back to your hotel room and like continue to work.
Yeah,
Like, man, you
yeah,
are
that was
crazy. I guess you work more than me.
no, I don't see that's the thing, it's funny. I feel like when we look at other people, we f they we think that they're so productive. Like, I look at you, I'm like, "You're on 3 projects," whatever. I'm like, "I don't know how he does that." For me personally, I know I can't work on more than 2 projects max. Like, that's my and plus teaching, I'm up to my ears. In terms of teaching, I've realized I've taught nonstop literally since last April, and I'm gonna admit I'm a little bit on a burnout with that because I'm and you teach before, and I actually wanted to ask you this, but I mean, like when you teach, right? You're thinking of new stuff to teach, and you're giving to the students constantly. So I find that right now I'm in that kind of mode where I I need to replenish myself, like my well. And I haven't honestly, I'm gonna admit, and I feel guilty admitting this, I haven't been able to make personal pieces for myself for a while. Because I don't know about you, but with work, like work, and then teaching, I have like no energy personally. Um, and to me, that balance is really important. And in terms of work ethic, I think it is also, um, I think it could also be a fear of like not discovering all that there is to discover, I think. And I think this is particularly true in more for the like in traditional painting for me. Like there's so many things I know I probably won't get to or won't discover. And that does scare me. Kind of the same with traveling. Like to me, I know there's I won't see all the places there are there, and traveling is something that is, really important to me. But I think it's like this, it's like I think I get competitive with myself as well. Like I'm like, oh, is this the best I could be, or could I be better? But then sometimes you just want to chill and you just want to rest, and you're like, and I just want to bake. And so I actually lately have had this. I was telling some friends, I'm like, I think I'm more of a baker than an artist right now. And I feel slightly guilty admitting that. But I'm like, why should I feel guilty? Like, people can have multiple hobbies, you know? And like, baking is definitely one of my hobbies and my passions. So that's where I am right now. It's kind of strange, but I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah. But like, for example, for me, when like me working a lot, it comes from like childhood where we had like very little. Like it was a constant struggle. Like
Mm,
my family, I remember it was just always a like a stressful time
mm,
because like money was such an issue.
mm,
So for me, I'm like I need to like work a ton and not go through that experience ever again because that was like horrible.
mm.
So
That's-
is it is there something that led you to be like this, or is it purely like you just want to live up to your like fullest potential?
I think, yeah, it's not so much for me. I mean, I will say I grew up comfortably, and I think, um, I was lucky enough that, I wasn't in debt or anything for school. Like I'm very thankful for that, and I know that I'm very privileged to have that. And I think part of it, I will say, maybe it's a little bit to prove to my parents, like immigrant Chinese parents, they
Mm,
don't look as teaching as necessarily a job. They look at like working at Pixar or J or like the top studios. It's like, oh, they can brag to their friends that like, oh yeah, my daughter works there. So I think now that I'm working on, I guess like kind of more notable studios, it's like, oh, my mom particularly, I would say my dad's just been like this amazing, sorry, mom. Like he came I love them both, but my dad came from nothing as well. So he came from a poor family and he built his own business as well. So he really understands that entrepreneurship, and I'm very entrepreneur. I'm very different from my brother who's like we're I love him but we're very different. So I think he understood that, and so I think part of it was getting to that point where I could be financially stable, because for a long time I wasn't, and I was living at home and I was making nothing for a long time. I mean, I didn't want for anything, but I didn't think I had a concept of what it meant to fully um, be able to provide for myself until probably in the last 3 years. And maybe that's a little embarrassing, but it's just the truth. Just because I was just it's a give and take, right? Because then I was able to live at home and build up teaching and build up that domain of mine. Um, and so I don't regret it at all. But for me, I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's also a fear of being left behind, in
mm,
the industry. It's being so fast paced now. Like, dude, honestly, for me, I still am amazed at how I have a job. Like, I'm gonna admit, I don't like this year. I'm like, I need to learn Blender. I'm gonna admit, I don't know Blender and I don't use Blender, and I feel very behind in terms of the tools and everything that are going on. And I just am lucky, I guess, that I have a good eye for color that's able to get me hired. So I think there is that fear as well, I think. Yeah.
mhm. Okay,
But I have a
that's
question for you.
yeah.
So obviously, like, you're financially stable. Do you think you feel better now, or do you think you'll always kind of feel like there's not enough?
That's the thing. I thought like I was like, okay, once I have this much saved, then I'll feel good. But then as soon as I got there, it felt good
Yeah.
for like a day, and then I was like, okay,
Right.
I need like this much.
Right. Right. The goalpost is kind of moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. It's something that I'm struggling with because I feel like I need to somehow figure out how to feel okay because
Mm.
um I don't know. I'm definitely better this past year than I was because I think this past year I would work super hard for a few months and then I would take like a few weeks off or take
Yeah.
like a month off. So I am rewarding myself a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think that's a pretty good balance, and my plan is to continue that, but take take maybe more breaks as I go,
Mm.
as I get older.
Hmm.
Because there's gonna be a point where like I only
Allow yourself to. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm I only spend 10% of what I make, and then the 90% goes into stocks, investments,
Right.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So there's gonna
Nice.
be a point where like I don't have to like I don't have to worry about that anymore.
I mean, you sound like you're on a wonderful track. Some people don't even know how to save. I mean, I didn't even know how to invest until like 3 years ago when Justin taught me. Embarrassing things, guys, that are coming out right now. Yeah. And my parents are like financial advisors and accountants. So like they didn't teach me that. I had to learn it myself. But it sounds like you're doing really good. I had a question for you and then it just evaded me. Um, I know we had talked briefly about like your like schedules and stuff, and I'm so curious about how you schedule your schedule, because from what you tell me, it sounds like we both have something in common, and this is something I'm realizing about myself. I don't know about you, but I think it's because we're pretty hard workers. I find it incredibly hard to take a break, and this is something I'm working on myself too. um like Justin will tell me, he's like, you don't let yourself take a break, and I feel guilty, and it's a really weird complex I have. Like, if I let myself watch a full TV show, I feel guilty, so I have to break it up. and I just let myself relax on the weekends. So this is actually something that I'm trying to work towards, but it sounds like you really grind hard and then you give yourself a break, which is what I do as well. Like I'll need a month off between projects. That's what I did last year. So I'm curious about your day-to-day cycle as well as your larger scope cycle.
Yeah. I usually take a break when like I absolutely have to, when it's like when I'm in like serious art block, or
Yeah.
I've just been like in front of my computer for like a week straight or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can't produce anything good anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel you.
but my daily schedule is right now it's not perfect. I get up at like 9 or 10 a.m.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
Because I'm on the East Coast, because I'll have like meetings like later at night
Oh,
for
okay.
like
Okay.
LA time. Um, so yeah, I get up at like 9 or 10. I work, yeah, I work all day. I work out, I go to the gym or something at night. And then because I'm around my family, I'll like play some video games with my brother and my sister or something, like
Oh, yeah.
Mario Golf, or that's what we're playing right now. Um,
Nice.
and then usually after that, I'll do a little bit of work um, till like 1 or 2 a.m.
Oh my God.
Or sometimes I'm up at like 4 a.m. because I'm just like in the zone. I'm just like working. But
Oh, I cannot do that anymore. I cannot do that. If I stay up till 12, I'm already dead the next day. Like
yeah.
one max. I definitely feel it now.
Mhm.
Yeah. But
What's
you told me, wait, you're telling me at Icon that you wake, like you go to bed at 10. Oh, but that was like now, because now you're on the East Coast. Because you said
Yeah.
you go to bed early and then wake up really early.
Yeah, yeah, like if it's up to me, it's just because of my situation right now, it's all messed up.
Ah,
But
okay,
like
okay.
normally I get up at 4 a.m.
That's crazy. That's too early for me.
But what's great about that is you get so much work done
Yeah,
before
I get it.
9 a.m., before the
Yeah,
workday starts.
yeah.
So you feel so accomplished before you have to go to any meetings or anything like that.
Yeah, I totally feel that.
Yeah.
I totally feel
So
that.
yeah,
That
I
would be
will,
ideal.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get back to that as soon as I can. But
Nice. That's really disciplined.
yeah. What's
I
your
love.
schedule like?
I'm a morning person and a night person. So I try to schedule it around, but I haven't been waking up that early. Unfortunately, ideally I would like to wake up at 7 or 8. And my ideal schedule is to read in the morning for like an hour, but because I teach sometimes in the mornings and sometimes, stuff happens I don't always get to. And then I like to have a working chunk in the morning and then I take lunch and then I'll work a little bit more, but then I'll actually work out. Like I'll go on a run and then do strength training, whatever, in the afternoon because I'm like least productive. Like I'm just basically like I feel sleepy and so working out helps me be awake. And then I'll actually work at night again after dinner, which sounds awful, but sometimes I can focus better. So it changes day to day. And I actually think that, or not day to day, sorry, it changes like quarter to quarter. And I actually was thinking about this. I was like, it's actually really nice to change up your schedule every quarter to shift things up. So this wasn't how I used to do it. Like before, I would just be, I think when I was working 2 jobs at Proco and Marvel at one point, I was waking up early, working out like at 6 a.m., working for Proco for like 3 hours and then Marvel and then Proco at night and then Proco on the weekends. And then I got laid off at Proco. So that was no more, but that was hell working 2 jobs then. That was
That's
two
crazy.
years ago. Um, but I like to have that break in between to recalibrate because I think my least productive times is in the afternoon for me. Yeah.
Mhm. What do
Yeah.
you do
So
for workout?
right now I have been keeping it simple, trying to lose weight for the wedding, but probably not happening with everything I'm baking. I'm trying to like not put pressure on myself, but I'm just going like a 2 to 3 mile run every day around the neighborhood. And then I had this program that I follow. So actually I worked with a nutritionist a couple years back because I was having stomach problems. So he gave me like a really strict diet and like a workout strength training program. So I've just been going back to following that. But I'll just do like what is it? The first day, legs day, and then shoulder or chest and shoulders, and then abs, and then back and shoulders, triceps, biceps, and then abs. And then for me, I found that yoga has just been incredibly helpful. And if I don't do that, I feel like something is missing. So, like, for example, last week I had an anxiety break. Like, I had an anxiety attack, which I've hardly experienced, but it was just like everything. I think I'd taken on too much for various things. And I was like, I can't. I think my brain is telling me something is wrong. And so I basically froze up and I couldn't work. And I don't know if you've had this. And I think one of your questions was like, have you ever gone through, hard times or something? But
Yeah.
I've definitely gone through. Yeah, so last week was tough and my productivity was kind of like, meh. And the only thing that helped me was baking and yoga. Like baking is super therapeutic for me, which is why I think it's so important to have other hobbies. And yoga just brought me back. And so I think it's just really centering. Yeah.
Mm.
It's not going to turn into a yoga pep talk, but just you asked me what my routine was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I know
that's
you're super
awesome. Yeah.
disciplined as well, so that's great. I think exercising is so important. Justin thinks I'm OCD about exercising, which I probably am. I
Do you
am a little bit.
do you drag him with you, or does he do his own thing?
He does his own thing, yeah. So he has his own workouts that he does, but like he's okay if he misses a day, and I'm like religious about like I will feel this. The whole goes back to the whole guilt thing. It's
Hmm.
like even if I'm super tired and I'm hammered and I'm like I don't have any ounce in my body to like even go on a run, I will force myself to, but then oftentimes I find I don't know about you, but when you do go out, like, you wake up more, you know?
Hmm.
It's like the hardest part is getting started. So I don't know, how about you?
Yeah. Well, like before us talking, I went for a walk like around the
Yeah,
neighborhood.
same here, yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. Just like being outside, getting some fresh air
Yes,
and
yes.
sunlight is always great. But yeah,
It's the best.
I need to work out because like I have very bad, like I talk very badly to myself uh like most of the time. And if I skip a workout or something, like the voice in my head is like, "Oh, you're like out of shape now. You're a
Oh my
lazy
gosh,
piece of
Zach, we might
shit."
have we might I totally understand that.
And then I'm like sad for like
Oh my
until
god.
I work out. And like
I'm the
even if I
same.
look at myself in the mirror, like even if I still have like abs, I'm still like, oh, like it could be better. Like I should have worked out today.
Dude, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I think one of the things that I've been trying to work on is just accepting myself more, like
Mhm.
how I am, art wise, but also like physically wise and all this stuff. Cause I think for a long time, sorry guys, I know this is about art, but this is, a lot of things around art, right? So we have to, you can cut this part out, whatever.
No, no, this
Um,
I honestly this stuff is super interesting because we
I
get to
know.
know you more as a person and
Yeah.
yeah, so like even for me, like I love this kind of stuff too. So
Yeah, no, same. I think this stuff isn't talked about, but like the self-love aspect, I think it doesn't always go into physical appearance, but even, art and work ethic, like I'm the same. It's like if I used to just I always used to critique myself and like I hate my arms and obviously like I could have better abs or blah blah and like I compare myself. And lately, and I actually was talking to my therapist about this and I realized that it's just it's so much more when you accept yourself and just focusing on that stuff. It's just so much, if you feel so much more at peace with yourself. And it's hard because I think we have this mentality. It's like, no, why would you settle? Like, that's just like you're settling now. Like, you can always be better. But
mhm.
I think being better hinges on the fact that first you have to accept yourself as the way you are. And I think a lot of times people skip that and then they just keep aiming for something and the goalpost keeps getting moved. So for me, I totally understand where you're coming from, Zach. Like, trust me, there's a voice in my head as well. Justin's like, what the heck is wrong with you? Like it's one day. And I'm like, no, but like I just sat or stood all day. Like I didn't move. Like I need to move. Like I have I have like a really weird thing with sitting. Like I cannot sit for, and like our jobs are a lot of times staring at a screen. I hate staring at a screen. I hate it. Even that's ironic because our jobs require that. But personally, I don't know about you, but I take, this sounds like I'm really unproductive, but I'll probably take like breaks every 20 minutes. And I actually listened to the podcast about the screenwriter, and he does the same thing too. And he wrote, I forgot which screenplay he wrote, but like he says, like taking breaks is actually just really makes you much more productive instead of just grinding through sometimes. So it's the same as stepping back at a painting and then coming forward. So I'll take breaks. Maybe I'll just go walk around once or something and come back. But I do not enjoy staring at a screen for hours on end. I'm not the kind of person that can do that. So
Mhm.
yeah.
That's a really good point because um, when uh, when I was at DreamWorks, that job ruined my attention span because my
Mm,
schedule, I was I was art directing, and every
yeah.
30 minutes, every hour was a new topic, a new
Yeah.
meeting. I was just
Yep.
like my brain was just all over the place
Yep.
all day. And
Yeah.
then when I left that job, um I was like, okay, I'm free. I can just like do a bunch of work. I was like so excited, but I could not focus at all. It ruined my
Interesting.
attention span. So what I did was I set a timer for 30 minutes and I was like, oh, I'm not going to let myself get distracted
Yeah,
for these
that's
30
smart.
minutes.
Yeah.
And then I took 5 minutes off, like walk around the
Yeah.
house or check whatever I was thinking about online, find like a podcast to listen to or something, and
Mm-hmm.
then sit back down for 30 minutes. And that recalibrated me to be like
That's smart.
um focused. And then I did that for a few days, and then I didn't have to set timers anymore. I could just like focus again.
Nice. I remember you sharing that at Icon, and I thought that was really smart
Mm.
because I think it's that kind of competitive thing. I think I don't set timers, but what happens is when I was feeling like really down the last couple of weeks, I make bread, and so the bread has to you have to turn it every 30 minutes, and so I set a timer. So I challenged myself if I can do like two keyframes in 30 minutes or one, whatever it was, within that time, that was enough for me to be like, focus, focus. And then I get to turn my bread. So that was my reward, like baking is my reward. It's strange. It's
That is
like
so funny.
baking is my reward. That's my reward. And
Yeah.
so I'll tell myself like, if I can finish these tasks at this time, I can bake this that I wanted to make. And so that works for me. So it's similar to your timing thing. But yeah, the meetings thing, it's gosh, like I know I'm sure I didn't have as many meetings as you did when you art directed, but even one or two meetings in a day can definitely break your distraction. So I totally know how that feels like. It's like half your day's gone, you're like calibrating and everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. It's really hard for sure.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
so funny with the baking and like getting work done in between.
Yes, yes, that is multitasking for sure. That's why I love bread because bread, it's like you make it and it's like three-fourths of the time it's like letting it grow, like
Mhm.
it's a hands-off thing. So it might look like I'm doing a lot, but it's not. You're just like letting it sit and letting it prove and then put in the fridge. Don't touch it for 2 days. And it's like so hands-off. Yeah.
Man, I want to try. I gotta come visit and
Yes.
make something.
Dude, I don't have enough people to feed here. So like Justin's been eating it, and then I've been giving it to the gallery owners down the street, and then like the bookstore people. So I've just been like handing it off, but
Wow.
neighbors and stuff. Yeah, but I've been making a lot. So
You're
yeah.
gonna have reputation in the town for like the art lady who makes
Who
bread. And
makes bread?
yeah.
That's the goal. And then I'll open up my own cafe at one point.
Oh, that'd be
That-
awesome. Make a cafe with slash gallery so you can hang up all your stuff.
That's my dream.
Oh,
That's my
really?
dream. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think combining baking and art, but as of now, I'm not putting too much thought into it, but I can
Mhm.
dream about it for now. Yeah.
That's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
you have one brother
One brother. Yep.
and you're
Yeah.
the oldest?
I'm the oldest. I'm 5 years older. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can 100% tell that you're the oldest. And I wanted to ask you about that because I'm the
Yeah, for sure.
oldest. And I think that that's why we have so many similarities because, the oldest sibling has to like they're like forced to grow up a little bit quicker and like take care of the younger siblings. And I think that has led you to be like very hardworking and motivated and planning for the future.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting to talk about. Yeah, you're the oldest.
Mhm.
I think it's fun. Are you and Tad and your sister similar in characteristics and personality or opposite or
Um, so my brother and I were pretty similar,
yeah.
but people that know us both, like some people are like, yeah, I like Tad much better because he's the more like chill, mentally stable, like he's like the like he, he just like yeah, he's just more like mentally just like calm and um people have told me that I'm like too intense. I'm too like I have to like do this and this and this. Where Tad is like he's more content in life. He's very hardworking, but like he goes and hangs out with people and he like goes and spends time with our parents more
Mm.
and then my sister, so I had like tons of rules, like very strict. My brother
Dude,
less
same.
strict, and then my sister like no rules, she could do anything. So
Wow.
she's like the most like just
Very
like
different. How much age difference?
there's 5 years in between each of us, so I'm 10 years older than my sister.
Okay, that's a huge difference. That's
Yeah.
one of my friends too. She has like a sister. She's my age, a year older, but her sister's like still in college, so it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
how
that's a
old's your brother?
oh my god, that's embarrassing. 20, don't make me do math. 26 to 27. I got brain fart. Something around that. I think he's 27. I think he just turned 27
Yeah. How old
because
are
I'm
you?
32. So yeah, he's
30.
27.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
we're
five
same
years
age.
apart. Yeah, there you go. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you have this, but what I've learned having a sibling is that so, as you can relate, like we're very goal achieving and like I think throughout my whole life I've always been like asking like what's the next thing like I want to I just it's not for me it's not so much about gaining fame or gaining whatever. For me, it's actually, I get really excited about opportunities and I love working with people. That's why I love working in animation. So for me, it's like this excitement of collaborating with people or getting to know people because I'm very extroverted. That's what I think excites me and makes me kind of go out and get opportunities. So my brother is very interesting. Like he's very much the laid back kind of person and he's in my opinion, been kind of, coddled as well and, like lived at home just until recently and like didn't have to cook and all that stuff. Um, and so he has a job, but he's very content with that and like doesn't feel the need to do anything outside of job. Um, and stuff like that. And so I was constantly harping on him and I was like, you need to find a hobby. Like, what's your hobby? Like, raves and working out, like, those aren't hobbies to me, and so I was, like, putting everything I'm a pretty hard sister, and I've been told that. I've been told, like, I need to back off and, like, be more chill, from people as well, so I realized that I was like, I was just imprinting what I thought was good work ethic onto him, and I wasn't accepting, like, maybe this what makes him happy, and as long as he's happy, like, that's what matters for him. Like, what makes me happy doesn't necessarily make him happy. Like, not everyone has to make the next newest app. He's a computer science. Like, not everyone has to code the next, like best app or like do 10 projects on the side. Um, and, sometimes they're just content with what they have. And so I think for me, I'm learning to back off as well on that. But it's been a very long learning process for me, I think. And I realized that I tend to be more, I'm very, no, sorry, I don't beat people up, but I'm very like, like I guess I can be opinionated in a way, with people that I care about, so I'm working on that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I've never shared this much before publicly, Zach. Everyone's gonna, like, hate me now and be like
No, no. You are not saying anything that anyone would have any issue with because it's who you are and you're describing like why you're that way and Yeah, it's so interesting because I like we're the oldest sibling, so we're used to having like more pressure on us our whole life.
Yeah,
And
for sure, for sure.
yeah.
I think the pressure, you can feel it. And it's hard. I think it's hard that you want to set a good example for your siblings.
Hmm.
And he said that he looks up. I mean, like I'm sure Tad says he looks up to you, and I'm sure you look up to him as well. And it's, mutually exclusive. I mean, you guys are both so successful. You guys are like such a badass team. But uh, but I think yeah, it's hard. I think it's hard, especially when you come from, for me coming from immigrant family, like my parents came from Hong Kong and China. And so I don't think they're very overbearing compared to other parents, but I think at the same time there's always that like unspoken, am I good enough for them? Like have I done enough? And I like to think that I'm not that way, and I'm like I march to my own drum, and like I don't care what they think. But I actually realized doing therapy and reflecting more like deep down like dang, I really do care about what they think as much as I don't think that I do. And so I care that, I can set a good example for my brother, and that, he can look up to me. And so I think those are kind of invisible scripts that are, kind of lurking in the back. And it's not good. They're not good or bad. It's just, they're there, and we have to deal with them as the oldest sibling.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so growing up, like it's kind of a stereotype for like the Chinese parents, like very strict, like you do this at this time, you do your work, and only then after you get everything done and you get good grades, then you can like get a small reward or something. So was it like that for you, like growing up, very strict?
I will say I think my parents were wonderful parents in that regard. Like I don't compare to other peers that I knew in high school. Like, oh my God, man, what's the highest score for SAT? Like, if they didn't get a 2400, whatever it was, like their parents were like, you're not, doing, and my parents never made me feel that way. I remember one time I got an F on a paper for some reason, and I was so scared to tell my mom. And I might totally be remembering this wrong, but I think she was just like, oh, it's okay, just do better next time. So, I think my parents were really good in the fact that they never made me feel bad when I didn't do my optimal job, and just encouraged me to do better.
Mhm.
So I think that's why maybe I have, I have some self-love, and I think I'm not, I guess maybe if I grew up in a different environment, I maybe would be twice as hard on myself, which I don't know, maybe wouldn't be healthy. But I actually have a tattoo right here. This is from my mom, from my parents, and this is for them. So it says, failing forward is a mother of success. And that's what they would tell me. Don't ask me to speak it in Chinese because I don't know embarrassingly how to say it. I speak Cantonese. This is yeah. So that's what they would tell me growing up. And that's the one thing that I always remember. My mom would say, it's okay, you're failing forward. And I think that's something that I always took with me. And to this day, it's like, like if something doesn't work out, or, you know, nothing ever really works out how we ideally want it. It's like there's always a next time, and you can always, just learn from it. And I think that's really valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, failing forward.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Um, okay,
We got some
how
good quotes.
um
Ask away, Zach.
yeah, I got my list of questions here. Um, so online everyone is kind of like, they see something cool and then it starts a trend and then everyone's kind of like doing the same thing. Um, how do you be different? And any advice for like um posting online and yeah, I guess just being different, being yourself.
Well, one, I don't think I follow any trends. I have no interest. So like things like Plain April, which are great, and all those like Inktober, that stuff actually stresses me out for not like people who can do it. That's great. For me, I almost have this mindset, it's like everyone's doing it. I don't want to do it. I just want to paint when I want to, and I just want to post when I want to. I hate the pressure of posting on social media. I
Hmm.
hate it. I think it's like a necessary evil. If I didn't have to be on social media, I honestly wouldn't be on it. But it's, obviously a marketing and a way to get hired and stuff. I barely scroll on social media. So I will say I'm not on social media at all unless I'm talking to people in DMs, because I'm sure you know this all too well. I'm curious about your take on it. But if I haven't been making personal pieces for a while, which has been apparent because I've been teaching and working, and I really need to replenish that well. I If I see like a piece that someone else did on social media, it's almost like I can feel it's like like a pinch, like a knife to myself. And then these voices come that's like, why aren't you painting? Like you could, like that's so good. Like you should try that style. Like you should try painting like this. And then all these voices just keep coming in, and it's not healthy. And I almost get into this mode of, I don't know how to describe the feeling, but it's not a happy feeling. So I would say in terms of trends and how to stand out, just latch on to what you know makes you, that that you love and that you're good at. If there's like a style going around, like, once everyone starts doing that style, it's not going to be a unique style anymore. I just honestly, I have never paid attention to trends. I just post what I do, like whether it be gouache paintings, a painting that I like and then the public doesn't like. I don't know if that happens to you, but that happens to me. It's like a painting that I personally like, it doesn't get a lot of likes, and that can be demeaning. But I know that I figured out something in that painting that the public can't see. It's like something deeper within myself. And then paintings that I'm like, whatever, this was a quick study. I don't really feel anything about it. And then like everyone likes it. It's always like that. That's not, that intel is can be kind of, can you start chasing the likes. Um, I think instead of just posting and feeling that pressure to post every day, it's like focus on honing your voice and creating good art that speaks to you regardless of how many likes it gets. Like that unlocked something for you. That's the most satisfying of all. And if it gets a lot of likes, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. But just learn to not base your self-worth on that, because I think that can be, a really up and down roller coaster. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, you need to do art for yourself, not worry about that kind of stuff. Um, you shouldn't be following or trying to chase after like a ton of followers and likes and all of that, because
Yeah.
it really doesn't matter. It's kind of like it's kind of like the fast food or something. It's just like cheap, and a lot of it, it's like you're
Yeah, it
better
makes you
off.
feel bleh,
Yeah.
afterwards, right? Like it's really good in the moment. Yeah, it's really satiating, and then it just like makes you feel like crap
Yeah.
afterwards. Yeah, that's a good analogy. So, um, I mean, yeah, it's like cool to see followers increase. But at the end of the day, like I think my organic following has been super slow compared to other people. Like, I mean, I don't know when I was on Instagram, but probably around the time I messaged you, that was when I was starting. And I don't know if it's fast or slow, but I see other people have way more, and it doesn't bother me because I think one thing I listen to podcasts all day, by the way. So it's like I don't listen to any music, just like podcast. I love learning while I'm painting. So it's like, oh, I'll just learning like all day. My most therapeutic thing is cooking and listening to podcasts or baking. Um, by the way, I just re-listened to this book called Courage to be Disliked. That's a really good book. I don't know if it's by Japanese authors. I
Hmm.
read the book a long time ago, and then I re-listened to the audiobook just recently, and it was just really good reminders, I think, overall. So I think you'd like that book. That's a book rec I have, but I forgot where I was going with all this. I go on tangents a lot, sorry. Um,
Um, yeah, that's awesome. I'll definitely check out that book because I haven't listened to or read a book in a while.
the
Um,
last one I remember you saying was Rick Rubin. You recommended that, and then I read that shortly after. Yeah, that was really good.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you
Yeah,
relate
that
to some stuff in that one?
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I really liked his analogy of the seed and like how some ideas grow and others don't as much. And I'd have to here's the thing, I think I'll remember everything I read in the book and I don't. And so like I highlighted in my Kindle,
Mhm.
but there's definitely a lot of things that I related to, I think, just the angst of, the angst that you feel of trying to be the best artist you can be, but then also striking that balance, I think is something that is really fascinating to me right now.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was a really good book for sure. I can't believe it took me that long to read it.
Well, for me, it took me so long because it's so packed full of like just incredible like stories and topics and things to think about.
Yeah.
And something that I remember, I definitely have to read it again because there's so
Yeah.
much that I need to refresh on. But I mean, he talks about how like the artists struggle, and
Yes, the artist struggle. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, share that
I
a little bit
was
more of my time.
I was like I was like, oh, I'm not the only one who feels like this. Like every artist is going through this, and he talks about how like famous musicians, they're like super creative, like Jimi Hendrix or something. Like I don't know how old he was. He was in his like early 20s and like revolutionary for music. But because he's so creative, it's hard for him to be in the normal world
Oh,
and
right,
going
right.
through
Yeah,
just
yeah.
normal life because of that super
Right.
creative, different brain that he has. And um, that's stuck with me because I'm definitely like not like the anywhere's near Jimi Hendrix in terms of anything, but like sometimes I find it really difficult to like be around like non-artists and like just kind of like the normal people who are just like satisfied going through life.
That's really interesting. Talk more about that.
Um, for me, like I always have to be doing something kind of related to art or something a little bit creative. Um, like if I'm taking a vacation somewhere, I'm gonna be sketching, taking photos. Like I'll plan trips that are like scenic so that I can be like getting inspiration. Um, like uh like if I'm not doing something related to art or like benefiting me in that way, then it feels like a waste of time and I should be doing something.
Interesting. I can relate to that. I used to be like that a lot more.
Hmm.
And I think I'm still the same way. That's really cool to hear that. I can definitely relate to that, by the way, so you're not the only one. I think what changed my view was a long time ago. I distinctly remember I was in Poland and I was walking around and I didn't have my paints on me. And so for me, that was how I thought too. It's like if I didn't paint something, I didn't go out. If I didn't paint something in a beautiful scenery, like what's the point? Like I've just lost this opportunity. And I remember texting, I call him my friend and my mentor because I think he gives me really good advice, but his name's Corey Peters and he's a fine artist. And I was like, what do you do like when you can't paint something and you're super frustrated? Like, how do you combat those feelings? And he's like, maybe have you ever taken the time to just really enjoy the present, like how you are in the present? Because I think with us, we're always like thinking like what we could do, how we tie productivity, we tie our self-worth to productivity, especially if it's related to art. And so, and if we're not constantly something related to art, like then we feel like we're not being our best selves or being as productive. And then we feel bad about ourselves. But I think he told me to focus on being in the present because the present is really what we can experience at the fullest right now. Like we can only speculate about the future. The past is the past. Have you ever, really just taken the time to observe, how the light is hitting the leaves? Or so what I found was for me, I was not even enjoying the way like the light was hitting the leaves or like this and that. Like what do normal people do? Like they just stare at it. And then I would be like, it's beautiful. I need to paint it. And I'd be like literally that's how I feel. And so I realized that it was actually became more of a stress point for me. Like instead of enjoying something, I was literally stressing about not painting it. I'm like, what the freak is that? Like, how can I live through life going like that? So when he said that to me, it kind of clicked with me. And I think for me, when I see something in a new perspective, it can be very easy for me to get and I see, and then I can easily switch to a new perspective. And so from then on, I actually I changed and I realized that it's just like whether you're just soaking it in, just like taking pictures or not taking pictures, it's just seeing with your eyes, like that can be so powerful. And like really experiencing like the breeze and the birds and the sounds and everything. And I think when you really experience that, like, that can be really powerful. And so ever since then, if I didn't get a painting in or I got a painting in, it was crap, I was like, nope, you're not allowed to feel bad about it. Like you did something and you experienced it in that way. And that's what you did. And you can move on. But in my old self, if I didn't do a good painting in plein air or sketch, whatever it was, I would be a biatch. Like I would just be like, you don't want to be around me. Like I would just not be a pleasant person because I was just tying my self-worth with like partly did I do a good painting? And then secondly, like this is not good to post on social media. So I failed. Like that's literally what went through my head. And it's very unhealthy. And so I would just go through these up and down swings. And that's where I think, again, social media can be kind of unhealthy. Um, so like I think the best paintings I've done, I don't know for you, is like when I don't care, I'm like the weather's beautiful. I'm going out with Justin, like he's taking pictures, and I'm just having the best time just like throwing paint on. And I don't even care how it turns out. And oftentimes it turns out much better than I'm like, I need to do a good painting. Like, oh my God, if I don't, like, it's just that you think it's just the opposite of what you think it'll turn out to. So I think it's like, I don't know. Sorry, I talked a lot. That was
No, that's everything you said is so good. And yeah, just being in the moment and observing, though that's I've realized that that's super, super important for us artists because we can take those experiences and then put them into our paintings to then
yeah, the
create more
experience. Yeah.
relatable, capturing mood better. Um, yeah, just you, you like level up your paintings by, the
Yeah.
more you experience. So that's
It's
great.
really interesting because you strike me as such like a relaxed, chill person. So I guess like underneath that, it's like blah, 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 blah. Like you're so like I would say you're level-headed and you're very, you know, not chill's not the right word, but you're very like calm. I don't know.
I I think I come across as that way, like from the outside, but inside, like my brain is it's just like constant. It's like you're a piece of shit. You need to go work out. You
Oh
need to
my
eat
gosh,
more. You
Zach.
need to like do better paintings. Like, why aren't you studying this? Like it is crazy. So my day is just I'm like constantly like um it's I'm just I feel like I'm finding things to deal with that like all day long.
Wow.
So whether it's like listening to
I
like
know.
intense like
You like metal,
death
right?
metal, yeah,
Yeah, I can't do that. Sorry.
or like going to the gym and just like completely destroying myself, or like yeah, I just find these little things that I can do to just like maintain like kind of like be calm.
Is this what your parents told you as a kid? Like, are these voices that maybe you carried from, like, did your parents tell you you're not ever good enough? Or was this something you generated from, I guess, yourself growing up?
Mm, definitely my upbringing. Like they were like super, super strict. Like
Yeah, that can
any little
happen.
mistake was like I would be like severely punished for any like little thing I did. So
That
I think
makes
it
sense.
probably comes from that. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the only way to deal with it is like realizing that and then trying to find ways to um mm, yeah, like going to the gym.
So like
I don't
even
know.
when if I listed your accomplishments, because I'm sure to everyone in the art world, I mean, you're super famous and you have art directed, you started your own company, you production designed that beautiful short. I mean, you've done so many things at such a young age, but I know how it feels like. Even if someone listed that to you, it's almost like washing over you and it doesn't mean anything because you're like, so that was the past. What's the next thing? Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah. Um,
Because I can relate to that to an aspect, and that's something I'm working on as well. Yeah, so I'm just curious if that's how your mind works.
I'm
Because
trying, sorry, I'm trying to talk better to myself. I kind of have like a list of like my like good qualities. I like go through the
yeah,
list. I'm like, okay, not that bad. I'm doing okay.
Oh,
So
Zach, I appreciate you being so open.
yeah, yeah.
It's a real thing. I mean, it's really, especially it's because, like art is not like math. I mean, maybe mathematicians like compare themselves like, oh, that person found out that theory first. I don't know how that whole science math thing works, but art is so personal and it's so like everyone's path is different. So it's almost sometimes in a way it's like pointless to compare even though it's inevitable to compare, right? It's like if I were to compare myself to someone else, like they had a different upbringing and lived somewhere different and had totally different exposures and all this stuff, and um that's what shaped them. And I mean, I'm not saying I don't compare myself, I definitely do, but it's like I think it's so important to remind ourselves of um that, like when it looks like they have everything together, it's like, it might not look like that. Like they're also going through stuff and people go through more of the similar stuff than you think they do. I mean, I would never guess that from you. I just look at Zach and I'm like, Zach, uber successful, just like started as like just this, very organized and works on 3 projects at once and can multitask. And I'm like here last week having an anxiety attack and like not even be able to draw and I was like, and at the same time when I was having my anxiety attack, because I could feel my heart racing. I just couldn't breathe for a second, or not for a second. It was for like, it was having a hard time breathing. And I was like, what the heck is going through with me? And part of my brain was like, Tiffanie, this is just a construct in your mind. Get over yourself. Like you're being a weakling. Like that is what one side of my brain will tell me all the time. And then
Mhm.
the other side, because I do therapy and I do listen to a lot of podcasts, different topics. It's like, hey, it's okay to be a little kinder to yourself because we all need that. And so I have 2 voices of my brain, and so I totally understand how that feels like. And it's and I think when that happens, it's like don't tie yourself to how much you can create, just just set yourself one goal. And if you make that goal, then you can relax. So all I did was, I'm just going to do a certain amount of keyframes today. And that's it. Like after I've hit that, I have license to relax. Because otherwise, I don't think I ever have license to relax. And I'm sure you kind of feel the same way. So um, I really do think, yeah, like what telling yourself nicer things I think it's really important.
Mhm.
I just want to give you a hug right now. Yeah.
Video call
Like,
hug.
yeah.
So when you had the panic attack, was it like a lot of things, like a lot of assignments and pressure, like it was all building up and you got overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think it was partly because of that. It was interesting as I was listening to the beginning of your interview with Samuel Smith, and
Mhm.
I think he was sharing how like and he'll feel like he can't do a job and he's crap at it or something, and then like sometimes you feel more confident. So I think I'm kind of going through that phase right now. I'm like, can I do this job? Like, can I? Am I like living up to the standards of what I'm supposed to do? And that doubt can be crippling for sure.
Mhm. Like
And
imposter syndrome or
Yeah, for sure, imposter syndrome, and just like doubting myself if I'm doing enough, which, like I could be better with my time, and like all those thoughts. So all those thoughts were coming in. Definitely felt imposter syndrome, and then I think I had just agreed to a couple too many things. I just said no to them, and I think learning to say no is important as well too. I actually want to hear your opinion on that.
yeah, so my strategy, um basically my whole career I've been like super ambitious, like working on a couple different projects at any given time. If I was working full time at a studio, I'd get up early and I'd work part time at another studio or like something like that. Um, but this year I'm working on Spider-Verse 3, and it's the last Spider-Verse movie. And I've changed my mindset a little bit. I'm putting all of my focus into this one movie, and I'm just gonna try to do the best possible work I possibly can for this movie. Like I'm like reading the comics. I'm,
That's awesome.
if I have to like put in a little extra time to like get my assignment correct, I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna try doing that. this time. Like way less money. Um, but
I'm so sure you're making enough to make ends meet, especially since you spend 10% of your income.
yeah, I'll be fine. But yeah, so I'm gonna try that and
That's really cool.
see how it goes. And I've been doing that since the start of this movie, and it's been really great to just be 100% focused on something like that and not
Nice.
being like pulled in all these different directions.
I totally feel you. Yeah.
Um,
That's really great. I think the boldness that you had in changing that, I think that's really commendable because I think a lot of times, like, it's really easy to be like, oh, the more the better. And I just don't subscribe to that. I don't think it might make you feel good on a surface level, but then when you get in the grind of it, I don't know about you. Like some people thrive in like excess busyness. And I think, I don't know, I'm weird. I think there's a middle ground for me because if I'm too not busy, I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? Like there's too much open time. And then if I'm too busy, it's like, I need, I need time to myself. So for me, it's all about striking that middle ground, and learning to say no to more stuff if that you're going to be packed. I think that's a smart and that's a smart thing, and commendable. So yeah, I'm happy for you.
Thank you. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully I can, since I said it publicly, now I have to do it. I can't
Yeah.
like
Oh, that's true.
join
Oh my
another
gosh,
pod.
you did. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Then they'll find out.
Yeah. So how do you study and how do you get the most out of doing a study? And are there any artists that you're looking at right now as like inspiration?
Yeah, that's a great question. To be honest, I feel like because I've been teaching so much and I guess working, I wish I had more time to study. So in terms of how I study, I think I really like just reading books. Aside from doing master studies, which is always great.
Mhm.
I love reading. I actually really like reading the lives of artists. Like right now I'm reading about Leyendecker and I'm like so fascinated by his life. Like I don't know, The Great Gatsby was based on his character, like super rich, flamboyant, and I didn't know about that. And so I like doing that. And then I just, study from a lot of books. Um, I still have yet to, translate that into my personal work. And um, we can talk a little bit more about that later. But in terms of artists, I was talking to Jaime Jones and he introduced me to this artist called, I think I might pronounce it wrong, but Arkhip Kuindzhi. He's a Ukrainian artist and I love his stuff. Um,
You'll have to send me his stuff later.
okay, yeah, I'll send you stuff later. Yeah. So his stuff is really great. And I think lately, oh gosh, I should have written these down because I always forget. But I have my artist. I keep like a artist folder here. I was recently actually restudying Tahadiro Usagi, just about how he just his artwork is so simple, and I think I don't know, Zach. I don't know if you've ever gone through a period of your time where you feel like your art's in limbo and you don't know what style or what your work is defined by, but I personally feel like I'm in that, and so it's a little
Hmm.
bit unnerving for me. So I'm like very drawn obviously to painterly style, but I think after working on Marvel, I got more graphic. And then now I'm like, I don't know what I am right now. And so I'm like very drawn to things like Tahadir Yosaji, where it's like, very graphic and like one color for the shadow, one color for the light. And that's something I want to actually challenge myself to do because as painters, you want to find all those shifts, right? Like one brushstroke, marbleization, find all those juicy lost edges and color shifts, and I'm trying to challenge myself to do something different. So, but then I haven't had time to practice. And partially, I will admit, it's like fear. I think I've had a lot of fear in making new art lately. And it's like a little bit of guilt and embarrassment admitting that. But at the same time, it's true. So I just need to dive into it. But yeah, I feel like I'm in this limbo right now. Have you ever
Hmm.
gone through that?
Yeah. Definitely after the first Spider-Verse movie, I felt lost because um I was very like painterly and textural, and then when I worked on Spider-Verse, I had to be like very graphic. Um,
Ah,
and then when I didn't want to just be like in my personal work, continue to do that like Spider-Verse style. I wanted to get back to my own work. But I didn't know where to go because there's these two competing styles. So it took me years to kind of like take the stuff that I learned from Spider-Verse, combine it with like the more painterly textural
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that makes me feel so much better. Yeah,
yeah,
keep going.
something I've found that's helpful is start a project, start
Mm.
like just create like a little story or something that you can start to
Mm-hmm.
work on and build a style guide for yourself. Be like
That's what I want to do. Yeah.
be
Yeah.
your production designer and um make a document with like you like this artist color, you like this artist like texture and brushwork, you like this artist design, and then start doing pieces combining these with your own life experience and stuff like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I'm currently doing that right now, and it
Nice.
allows me to like explore and learn some new things. And yeah.
So you're writing your own story?
Yeah, it's it's like I posted a couple pieces. It's like these like cute little like characters with like spikes, and they're like little Viking characters.
Oh, that's
Um
cute.
so I'm yeah, I'm just painting a bunch of different um environments with them in it and coming up with a little like Viking story.
That's so cool. That's like really motivational because I think I personally I had this story that wrote maybe it was 5 years ago, and it's like a long form poem, like a ballad, and I had a lot of people read it. Like Pascal read it, he really liked the story, and some other friends. And I've just had this fear of taking it to the next level and doing concept pieces for it because I don't think I have it in me. And so there's so many fears that I have, I guess, that I'm realizing that I need to just like meet and suck it up um and just do it. But I think that's actually what I had in mind. Funny story, I was just talking to Pascal recently and he well, I asked him to critique my portfolio. He gave some really good stuff and he was telling me like tips for also like creating a story and just kind of creating some stuff around it. So I was like, that story I wrote that you read a long time ago, like I think I'm just gonna go for it. So that's like another one of things that I want to have time for.
Yeah,
Not enough time ever, I feel, and just so many things that we want to do. But that's really cool that you're doing that. I can't wait to see more. I'll
thanks.
have to look on your Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you some of my sketches and stuff I'm doing because
Yes.
it's like they're like very loose and just like ideas because we're both busy, but like when you get an idea you can just sketch it down really quick. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
so you should do that.
Okay. That's actually just a really inspiring note. I was with Pascal, what he was telling me was he was debunking something for me that was really interesting. He was saying how, like design doesn't have to be all neat and rendered, which is what I was associating design with. And I think that's what was hicking me up. And he just kind of literally gave me a new perspective of how to jot down ideas. I'll send you some stuff um after this, but it just helped me so much. It just reminded me of what you're talking about, like just loose, quick sketches to get your ideas down. So I definitely want to see yours though. Yeah.
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 um by the way, are you good on time, or do you need to get
Oh no,
going?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, just
Yeah.
just let me know because we could keep doing this for a while.
I know. I know. No, I think we can keep going. I'm
Okay.
just gonna go on a run before it gets dark. So before like I think 5:30 or so around
All
that
right,
time.
cool. Yeah, just tell me. Um, oh, how much are you plein air painting now? And have you found like a balance between doing plein air and digital?
That's a good question. I definitely don't plein air as much as I used to. Um, for sure. I just started doing it more around this area because excuse, the weather was better. It was really windy before. There's no way I could set up an easel. I guess I could paint in the car, but I'm very messy, so I don't want to get my lease car dirty.
Mhm.
I don't do it as much. I would say I try to go out and, once a week or so, but it's not every day. But I do observe every day and I do go on runs and I'm just taking reference photos. Like I'm still building up intel in my mind. For me, a balance between digital and art, I think I go through waves. So I'll go through one wave where I'll do more gouache paintings and digital, and then other ways where I do digital more than gouache. So it's never kind of equal. Um, like I have a show coming up in July. So I'm gonna have to be working on bigger pieces. I'll probably be like delving into gouache a little bit more. But then maybe when that's over, like I might do more digital pieces. So for me, it's kind of like an ebb and flow between both. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what makes a piece exceptional to you?
That's a good question. I think, first of all, the mood is very palpable. I think when you first look at a painting and you're like, wow, it just makes you feel something right here. You know that's special. Another thing that I really like about paintings is when you look at it and you're like, I just have no idea how this was made. Like it's not decipherable and it's like a mystery. And that I think that element of mystery is what makes an exceptional painting. So when I look at certain paintings like Bato Dugarzhopav or like I really like Dennis Gorodnychyi's, I'm pronouncing his name wrong probably, like his paintings are great. And just like Craig Mullins and other people, like it's just it's like such a chaotic but well orchestrated symphony in a way. Um and you can see that the artist has put a lot of their heart into it. And I think you can sense that. So I think a really exceptional piece, like you can feel that immediately. Yeah.
Mhm.
How about you?
Yeah, I agree with mood and people who are worried about, um, you know, AI and the state of the industry and everything right now. Like, if you can capture a mood, you can tell a unique story with your work, like, you will be employed because that is like, you're telling a real human story. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
computer algorithms can't do that.
Right. Right.
Um, so definitely mood above like the rendering or
Yeah, I
um
agree.
any of that bullshit. Um, yeah, so
Yeah, I agree.
and and also hue um or the like a nice balance of temperatures,
Yes. Yes.
like warm
Yes.
and cool, because that's
Yeah,
kind of
for
like what
sure.
you were mentioning, like the juice, or like it feels like the weight of something, if the like realism to the light and the color.
For me,
um
if there's a good amount of grays, that just sings through as well. Like all those beautiful grays. I'm like, I love grays.
yeah, that was my next question, like talk about gray.
Oh gosh, I'm like a grays advocate. Yeah, I just think people have put such a bad rep on grays. And I think I gave a lecture at Armin's mentorship a couple weeks back, just focusing on grays. But I think just when people can realize the potential of how grays can really just let your other colors elevate and sing, there's not just one kind of gray, right? As you know, there's warmer grays, cooler grays, like any temperature and increment of grays that you can create. And I'm obsessed with like finding the right temperature of grays and shadows and whatnot. So like I could spend hours tweaking on that digitally or traditionally. That's the fun part for me. So I think there is a quote by Dean Cornwell where he said, grays are like the gravy sauce to a steak. A good chef is not only judged by the quality of the steak that he makes, but the gravy sauce that he makes to accompany it. And so grays is what makes your colors colorful. And I was like, yes, even Dean Cornwell says this. Like, see, take it from him. Like, Like, that's so true, and so, you know, you find all these like, Edward Seago has a great quote on grays, like, "There's not one kind of gray, there's, like, a silver gray, a warm gray," and the way he describes it is really poetic, and I think in one of his books that I read, he said that I think a friend asked him, he's like, "What do you think the most common color in nature is?" And his friend said green. And he was like, I think it's gray. And I was like, yeah, that's so true. Cause you think about it, like there's hardly, I mean, like leaves are vibrant, yes, but everything like around it is just like the dirt, the trunks, you know, besides flowers and leaves, there's so many beautiful grays. And I think we overlook that a lot. So yeah, I could talk about grays all day. Not all day,
That's
but
that's really awesome. I love that. Common mistakes you see in art, in like concept art and in our industry, like anything that bothers you.
God, I feel imposter syndrome. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that or comment on that.
You said one at Icon Manila, I think, like was was it blue shadows, always blue shadows, or is
oh,
it
that, yeah.
nighttime, like high key blue, saturated nighttime?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I think for me, it's more like you see, I mean, you definitely see a lot of color schemes. I think sometimes people go for the coolness aspect of a painting more than the storytelling or the composition. So I think maybe that's where my more fine art, and I'm still learning a ton about composition and stuff, but I think sometimes composition suffers at the court of like making something look cool, whether it be the subject matter or, you know, the brushstrokes, whatever. So I think that's one thing. And then maybe things like pushing. I mean, I don't want to say that's a mistake, but maybe like, you know, like I feel like animation values really saturated palettes. And one thing like I would love to push if I ever made my own film is like a really moody, like gray, more adult palette, like that has just beautiful, you know, palettes from painters that I like. So I think that's an interest. That's not a mistake though. I think it's just a thing that I see. But maybe like composition, I guess sometimes. I think a lot of times like color and like cool colors are stressed, and people, you know, like cool tactics or cool Photoshop tricks are pushed, maybe at the expense of design, maybe. But I might be wrong. Uh,
Or using like the Photoshop tools instead of just painting it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, like I can't tell you, like every movie I'm on, I try to, you know, let this scene be a little bit more neutral
Yeah,
to
yeah,
have the next scene have that like big impact with that like
yeah,
splash of color or whatever.
yeah,
But pretty much every single time a producer will be like, oh, we need to add more lights, we
yeah,
need to add more saturation. Um, and I'm like, well, we're gonna make this feel more saturated and more like intense because the scene before it and the scene
right.
after it.
It's all about comparison relationships.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
then you end up with a movie that's just like hard to look at because it's like saturated with like all these different
Yeah.
lights everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, if we work on a movie together,
Oh, I
we
hope
can
so.
team
That'd be
up and
so fun. Dude, we would push those grays, man. Like we
yeah,
just be like, no, this is the Bible. This is the rule. Like this is the color palette
yeah. And
for
everyone would
life.
watch it and they'd be like, wow, why did like these colors are so interesting. I've never seen these
Yeah,
colors before.
exactly. Exactly. We should make that happen. That would be cool.
Yeah. We definitely will some
Yes,
point.
yes, yes, yes.
If money was no object, what would your dream project be, or what would you do next?
I would definitely like travel a ton. Um, I just love seeing places, partially because I love being able to paint them. I love traveling. Last year I lived a month in Italy and Japan, and that was amazing. So that was something I really wanted to do on my bucket list. And I got to check off, and it was cheaper living there than in San Diego. So there you go. It was like I saved money on rent and food, and I mean, it equaled out by the plane ticket and stuff, but still, it's like, dude, I get to live somewhere other than San Diego in, a different country. So for me, it was a really awesome payoff. Um, I would probably, my goal, to be honest, is to illustrate that story that I did. And if I had like all the time and like if money was an object, then I had all the time in the world, right? Because if I have money, then I have time. I would like love to turn that my story into a short film. I should have you read that. I don't think I've sent it to you.
Yeah.
I haven't read my own story in 5 years, so I
Whoa.
will need to read it. I haven't looked at it. Justin's like, remember that story you wrote? You should work on it. I'm like, yeah. He's like, remember that story you wrote? I'm like, he's such a great cheerleader. Um, but yeah, I would travel. I would probably maybe make a mini food blog and like try all these different bakes from every country I visited and try food. I love food. If you know what my superpower would be, it would be to eat everything and not get fat. Like literally, that would be my like I would eat all the bread in the world and all the pastries in the world. And I would just love it if I didn't have to be like, shoot, I just gained like, oh my gosh, I have to work this off now. Like, you know how stressful it is? Like, I just want to be able to eat and not have to think about working it off. Like, that's amazing. That would be my superpower because I just love eating
Do you
and
do
I love
cheat
food.
meals?
No, I mean, I cook my own meals. I love cooking. So I cook
Yeah.
healthy and we don't barely eat out, but like, I eat a good portion of vegetables and grains and stuff. And so I'm pretty basic with my own meals. I'm quite lazy, like just basic. Um, but I love trying different foods and I
Mhm.
love trying baked goods. Like that makes me genuinely happy. So I have to send you this Instagram of this really funny cake girl. I'll remind me. I need to write that down and send it to
Yeah,
you. She's
do it.
really funny. Yeah,
Um,
I keep shooting. I'll just write it down really quick.
Advice for starting out, like your first steps into the industry, like any advice
Mm,
on that?
yeah, that's a tough one. I feel like nothing I'm gonna say is gonna be new or revolutionary. They
Hmm.
always be like, I would say the one advice I have on networking is to not be afraid to reach out to contacts that you feel confident. I think a lot of times people overthink it. They're like, oh, should I reach out? Should I not? I think that if you reach out in a polite way where you're not too over imposing, but you're curious, I think people will latch on to that. So a lot of times I tell people like when you're at Lightbox and other events, it's like, don't gush over the person like I'm a fan of yours. Like they're like, like probably other people say that as well. Like try to connect with them on another level that's maybe even unrelated to art, like what we're doing right now, like, oh, you like baking? Like, oh my gosh, I love baking too. Like they'll remember you, like, like there's this connection. And then, be that much more easy to follow up with, the artist or whoever it is. But I think you got to be patient. You got to put your seeds out there because I think sometimes you never know when something could come full circle. Like I met the owner of Cartoon Saloon at the Annie Awards at Loving Vincent because my friend was a composer and he worked on Breadwinner, so he introduced me to them. And then he was like, "Yeah, yeah, you should. Here's the recruiter's email or the producer's email and Floor, and email her." So I emailed her. Was not expecting anything. Also, just don't expect anything. That's another tip. Just don't have your hopes high up. Can't even count the rejections that I've gotten. To this point, it's like a surprise if I even get accepted to something, because I'm just expect that I'll get rejected, and I think it's a healthy mindset because it's like that you don't have your hopes up. And then she reached out to me like 4 years later, to work on that production. So you never know when things will circle back. But I think to lose hope and think that planting seeds is pointless, like don't lose hope on that because you never know. Yeah. But
Yeah, that's awesome. I think like just being a real human and
yes, exactly. Yeah.
not being like, oh, I'm so hungry for a job.
Exactly. Like I think a lot of times people they want to sound formal and they think like, oh, I gotta sound super formal and like thank you. Like and I run the risk of that too. So I have a friend, Peter Paul. I think you might have met him. And I think sometimes I'll send him my emails and I'll be like, does this sound okay? Like before I'm sending it to someone. Because I don't believe in myself. I always need a second eye. It's a thing of mine I'm trying to work on. Like I always need a second opinion most of the time. And so he'll be like, you sound way too formal. Like they're a person. Why don't you just talk to them like they're a person? I'm like, but but they're the recruiter. Like, I have to sound a little formal. They're like, no, they're just a person. Like, just email them casually, you know? Like, at the end of the day, they want to talk to a real person. So I think that's good to remember.
Just
Yeah.
just be yourself. That's
Yeah.
great. And I'll just add, like, every pretty much every single job I've gotten has been from a
A referral.
director or
Yeah.
a production designer, who's found me on like Instagram or ArtStation, and they've just sent me a message. They're like, "Hey, are you available?" Um,
That's awesome.
and there was one time, like when I was just starting to like right after college, I was like starting to my path to get into animation. I went to like a schoolism event, and I showed Helen Chen
Yeah.
my work, and it was just like a bunch of illustrations, like nothing like it was not a good portfolio or anything, but she gave me some really good advice. And then 10 years later, she ended up hiring me at Disney, and um yeah, and she remembered me, and
That's amazing. There you
yeah, it's like,
go.
wow, that's so cool. And it's
That's
like,
awesome.
yeah. So making those connections, and like when someone gives you advice, like you need to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because people ask me for advice all the time, and then like years later they still haven't done it. I'm like,
Ah, that's a good point too, actually.
but if you
Yeah.
actually do it and then you send it to me again, um, and then in a few months you send me a new update, who
You'll remember
knows?
them. That's a
Yeah.
really good point.
And then
And
when
then
there's
you'll
a
hire
job
them
opening,
maybe.
yeah.
There you go. That's a really good point. What was I gonna say? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's
Like
really
all the
good.
artists who I've hired at my studio have been, either past students or just people I've been fans of, like on Instagram or something.
That's the
So,
thing with students as well. I think I like to stress with students. It's like, as teachers, like, yeah, they say like teachers are supposed to inspire students, but I like to tell my students too, like, you should inspire us too. Like, the more you give and the more I see your work ethic, I'm going to keep you in the back of my mind, like for something in the future. So I think that's a really good point. And to your point of being hired, I've never been hired by a recruiter. And this is something Pascal was critiquing my portfolio. Is really, I'll tell you maybe off camera, but all the jobs I've gotten are literally just through referral,
mm,
through other artists. So, yeah, I've just been rejected when I've applied on the websites and stuff.
yep, same. Yep.
Yeah, okay, okay, I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Not a
Yeah,
single job has come from applying
not
online.
indeed.
Yeah.
Not,
Or like the company website or whatever, when they're like,
no,
oh, we're hiring, and then you submit your stuff. Not a single one.
no, no. Yeah.
Um, um, what have you gotten any advice from a mentor or a friend that has stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot of good advice from my friend Corey. And um, I would say a quote. Actually, let me see if I can pull it up really quick because let me
And
see.
you've mentioned a lot of artists and stuff, so maybe after this you can jot down. I've been trying to make a list, but some of like the names from like different countries were kind of difficult. So maybe you could
Oh, for
write
sure.
some down, because someone made a good comment on the last video. They asked, if we could um, make a list of the artists that we mentioned so they could like look them up
Yeah.
after.
Yeah, yeah. I will. Yeah, I'll send a list. Let me just write it down. I think I mentioned Bato. And then I really like this quote by George Carlson. I don't know if you know his art, but he's a fine artist. And
Is he like the master tree guy?
I don't know, maybe he's known by that. I'm not sure. But he mentored T. Allen Lawson. I'm sure Tad knows T. Allen Lawson probably. So yeah, I have some great quotes by him that I think I read a article online, and one of the ones that really spoke to me was he said that everything that I have ever found worthwhile takes place within the tension of struggle. I think that quote really struck to me.
Oh, that is really nice.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt it before. I'm sure you felt it too, right? It's like that tension, that struggle, and it's like, oh, it's just so painful. But then you come out, stronger and more rejuvenated, I think. But in it, it's hard, man. It's hard sometimes. Yeah,
That's when you grow. And when
exactly.
you're starting out, those times can feel like really devastating. And
Exactly.
then like when you go through a few of those, then you're like, oh, okay, I'm just going through that. I'll get through it. Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
I have a couple more if you want to hear
Yeah,
them.
go for it.
Taste in a painting has to do not with indulgence but with restraint. And I think that's one where people think like adding more saturation or more this or that is going to help a painting, whereas sometimes it's about no, taking away and finding that, you know,
Areas
um,
of rest.
yes, areas of rest. Um, I have some by Seth Godin from his books, which I think is great. Uh, and yeah, I think a good one by Seth Godin is leadership is very much an art, one that's accomplished only by people with authentic generosity and a visceral connection to their tribe. Learning the trick won't do you any good if you haven't made a commitment first. Um, he has some interesting views on like art. And I thought I really like Seth Godin's book, but yeah, I have a lot of art quotes by George Carlson. I can send them to you later.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite show or movie or anything you've seen recently?
So literally all I've been watching by myself, I find it hard to get into TV shows because like I mentioned before, I feel guilty like sitting through even through dinner and watching a whole episode.
Mhm.
So I only watch cooking and baking shows, and literally I have been rewatching the Great British Baking Show. It is I can't tell you how happy that show makes me. Like it just ticks all the fluffy, happy notes that makes you feel warm and fuzzy. And it's funny because we're watching it. I actually started baking some of the things I watched. So, for example, I was inspired to make this Italian dessert with puff pastry. Not going to go into it's a sfogliatelle, and I was inspired to make steam buns and all this other stuff. And so, like rewatching it, I'm actually learning because I've gotten better since the last time I watched all the episodes. So that is what I love to watch by myself. With Justin, we'll watch a new movie every weekend. So that's our thing we do together. And we love cinematography and we love, checking out new films. I think a good one that I watched recently was Past Lives by A24. It's nothing dramatic. It's just a live about, immigrant Korean uh, boy and a girl that got separated and then different cultures, different lives. And, at one point they liked each other, but then they got separated. It was like really good about, just how life really works. That was a really good one. Um, Society of Snow that was based on another true story about I think it was a group of Argentinians that got stuck in this mountain range in Chile and they were literally there. This is a true story. They started eating human flesh of the people who had died and they eventually got saved. But that I thought some of the cinematography was really cool in that one and the way they did night scenes. And then I recently watched All Quiet on the Western Front, which was really good. I really like watching historical films and and Hacksaw Ridge. That was a really good one as well, based on a true story.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
I can
haven't
tell.
seen any of those, so I'll have to check some of those out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some of them are really good. I watched one movie that sucked and I don't recommend it. I
Which
did
one?
it was The Corner Office with the guy from Mad Men. I forget his actor, but that one I realized why it sucked was I realized when a movie doesn't tell you anything about the character or anything about their background and you have nothing to latch onto from the beginning, you're just like in for this invisible ride and you're like, where is this gonna go? Plus the fact that it was like all Kafkaesque and like kind of ambiguous. It was just like, where is this whole movie going the whole time? And you get bored, about like one third of the way through. So, oh, another interesting movie I watched was Inside with oh my God, I'm blanking out on his name. How embarrassing. Um, Inside. Hold on. Inside ah movie with William Dafoe. That was an
Hmm.
interesting one. I'm curious what you think about that one. There's like no
Inside.
talking whatsoever.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Um, all right, I have some relationship questions
Yeah. I
because
like that.
it's so yeah, it's so helpful for people to see like artists and how you deal with relationships because like we're so weird sometimes artists like sometimes we have to like stay up all night when we're like in the zone or like that can drive people crazy but what's a healthy relationship look like to you?
Healthy relationship. I'm gonna sit down for this because I've been standing for the last hour. Um, hold on. I'm lowering my standing desk.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know what an unhealthy relationship looks like, and I know what a healthy relationship looks like. So
Mhm.
I can
Maybe give a
answer to both.
couple points of both, yeah.
Yeah. A healthy relationship, I think, is when a partner respects your passions and your hobbies and even goes as far as to understand your world more, and be a part of it with you. And I only experienced that with Justin, and it was almost like when I experienced that with him, I was like, what is this? Like, people actually do this? Like, um, he has just been absolutely amazing in that. And I think it was funny because when we first started dating, I don't know if this was maybe like 6 months in, he knew that I love books. So like I'm a book addict. I don't read all of my books, but I just like having books, and so does he. So behind that, you can see he bought me probably one third of those books, because he surprised me one time. I think he ordered a bunch from Stewart NG, and he like got me a bunch of the Golden Illustrators and other artists that I had said I like. So he just listened to me. He listened, and then he took mental notes of which artists I liked and then found rare books, like books that are almost, that you don't see on the bookshelves anymore. So he got me like a collection of Edward Seago books. He's one of my favorite artists, like every collection that you could find. Um, he got it from me and slightly regrets it because obviously I haven't read all through of it. But I think that's the really main thing. I think a partner will respect your passion and your world. And I think having a successful relationship, you definitely need to have values that overlap. I think having, like a same mindset of how you want to raise kids, or how you view certain things, or your opinion on certain things. Because I think, that obviously speaks for compatibility. And I think another thing is just having common interests, and having things that you enjoy doing together. So, for example, with us, like we love watching movies together. We carve out time for that. He does photography, so while I paint, he'll just take pictures, and I don't have to like worry about someone waiting on me, which is super stressful while I paint. And then we love nature, so we go on hikes, and so it's like everything that I love, like he also enjoys it. I don't have to feel like I'm dragging someone, or, he doesn't have to feel like he's dragging me into something. So I think those are really important things. And I also know what it feels like to date an artist and have none of those things. So I can attest to both of that. A lot of times you think that, and this doesn't speak to all artist couples, but I thought in my last relationship, I won't say the name, but I thought dating other artists would, it's like the answer to all your problems. Not all your problems, sorry. It's like, oh, you're compatible because that person is an artist. And like it just couldn't be farther from the truth. Could not be farther from the truth because, well, one, if you're doing long distance, you just don't get to know the person more. And then two, if you just have art as your interest, but then like even the art that you do is slightly different. So I was like landscape, and he was like a mech designer, and he was like really heavy focused on mechs, and like a really good line drawer and stuff like that. Um, it strangely it didn't overlap as much, and we would have appreciation for each other's work, but that was about it. And so like he didn't go plein air painting with me, not that I expected him to, but it was it was almost like it's like, "Oh, cool, like, you do your thing, and I have inspiration, admiration for that." And then, on top of that, it was just no similarities. So I learned that the hard way by moving to a different country and realizing all of that. And then thank goodness I didn't get married because that would have been really terrible. Hands down, I know I would have been divorced by now, as bad as that sounds. So, I mean, whatever, it's true. It would have been awful. It would have been freaking awful. So I learned a lot from that. I learned a ton. And I think one thing I'll say is that when you find a good partner, it elevates everything else in your life. So like when you have something you can share with your partner, like everything else in life just seems to come easier. Like work comes easier. You just have like a happier mindset and everything. And then when you fight with them, like everything just becomes worse. Like when Justin and I are like in a tiff, it's like I actually can't focus on work until I've amended things with him. So we've gotten better at like, hey, like we come to each other and we'll talk it through and like and we'll listen to each other. But dude, I cannot focus on work. I'm like a little mess. I'm like, I need to get this in my life straight before I focus on other stuff. So I don't know how it is for you, but that's my 2 cents on a good relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And when you do have like some issue, do you try to solve it like immediately? Do you like communicate
Yeah.
immediately?
Yeah, so I think, we give each other a little space because what happens with me is that if I don't think about what I say, I can say really mean stuff. I'm kind of like a bleh, like a blurter. So I tend to just be quiet, and sometimes that quiet reads as like it's not it could come off as disdain, but it's me, like, just trying to process everything, and a lot of times I'll just need a little bit of space, so I'll take a walk maybe, and I'll tell him, like, "I'm gonna take a walk, um, and I'll come back and we can talk." Or we'll just be, like, awkwardly in the same space, and then I'll go to his room and I'll just, hug him, or he'll come to me and he'll hug me, and then that's kind of like the initiation, like, "Hey, we can talk now." But I think that heating down of things is important because otherwise we're both very defensive people, and like it'll just be like insult, insult, bit, 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 and like doesn't get anywhere, right? Like, or like kitchen sinking, And so it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's so hard when you're in the moment. And, arguments aren't fun at all, but I think it's definitely a skill learning how to talk through them. And it's something I'm learning. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And then um this has always been kind of interesting to me, like gender roles.
Yeah.
Like typically like the masculine gender roles like you are very masculine in that way because you're like working and like making all the money and like you're like career focused. I know Justin has a career too,
Yeah. He works as well. Yeah. 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 So he has his own income. Yeah.
but
So,
oh sorry, but
oh,
like
no,
if
no, keep
you
going, keep
if
going.
you're more in that masculine role, does he help out with like supporting you in other ways?
For sure. I think the whole role I never looked at it as, like, "Oh, this is split this way because 'cause you're a man and I'm a woman and, I do this and that." Although I will say my family, the parents of gender roles was very distinct. Like I've never seen my dad wash a dish in his life. My mom would do all the cook and I hated it. My mom would do all the cooking and my dad just leaves up. I just thought that was really irresponsible. I'm like, and I've called him out and I'm like, "Dad, mom just cooked a whole meal for you. The least you could do is like bring it up to the sink, But like I don't I it's what he saw growing up. With us currently, yeah, I mean, it's almost flipped in a way, yeah, like he has a job, we both have jobs, I bring in more of the income and he's fine with that, and he a lot of times, like, he will do a lot of the dishes and he's totally fine with that, partially because he thinks he does it better, which he does, and he just enjoys it, which I'm really lucky to have found someone who enjoys cleaning, like, he enjoys cleaning, so he actually does most of the cleaning. If you ask him, he probably thinks I'm not clean enough, like, I'm not as organized as I could be, which I think I'm okay for me, but I'm getting better. Um, so yeah, I would say it's funny, like, a lot of things are flipped, but we don't it's not something that is, we're bothered about. And who knows, like maybe next year I'll be unemployed and then he'll have the job that he still has and I'll just be poor, or I'll just be not bringing in anything. So I told him that it's like right now, yes, like it's funny because when I met him, that was like when I started entering into industry and I actually started being financially independent. And so he saw me grow, I guess. I don't know if it's not my apex, but like he just saw me grow to where I am now. And this is something relatively new to me because I was used to being very not well off before for many years, like, living off a very low income. And so I think it's still new for me. But yeah, I think that now that you say it, we're pretty reversed, but it's okay. It's like it works
Yeah.
for us that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Moral of the
think,
story, find someone who likes to clean. Just kidding. That
yeah,
was bad. Sorry, just kidding.
no, that's awesome that you guys like split stuff up like that and it's like teamwork. I think that's really important. And
Yeah.
you're engaged now, you're gonna get married soon. Was there like a point when you realized that like he's the one? Or is it like a slow build up? Or how did you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really appreciate these questions you're asking. I never got to talk with this with someone like this in detail. Especially like an art friend, I guess. Um, I think it was definitely when we first started dating. Well, it's funny, and this I think some people might find this helpful, but after my last relationship was a train wreck, and I met him on Tinder, Justin on Tinder, and I told him before any date, I was like, if you're not interested in a family and a like a long-term relationship and eventually a family, like don't even bother going on a date with me because I'm looking for someone serious and I'm not here to play around. That's like probably literally what I said word to word. Because I'm just like, I'm freaking tired of wasting my time. I don't care to go on a bunch of dates just to get to know someone who, and so I want to make sure they're compatible. And he was like, yes, I am interested in something long term. And so I was like, okay. Um, and then I also set some rules where I was like, no physical, nothing physical. Like I just want to get to know you for the first few months, just as a friend. So we just went on a lot of dates. We talked a lot. And it wasn't like when I first met him, it wasn't like I was like he was attractive, but I wasn't like, oh my God, like I'm over head over heels with you. Like, you feel lust for someone or something. It was like, this guy's a good head and I enjoy talking to him. And it was like the slow attraction buildup that the more I got to know, I mean, there's things that, I got to know that I was like, oh, okay, you can improve on that. But there was like, it was like overall, I was like, oh, I like these things about him. And, obviously he's not perfect. I'm not perfect, but um, it was definitely that slow buildup. And then I think you get to know more about a person and it's like peeling away the layers. And I don't know at what point I thought like he's the one, but I think it just kind of happened seamlessly in a way. And I think I remember at one point I was with him and I was like already thinking about what I would say in my vow, which was really weird. I was like, there's so many good things I like about this guy. Like, I think I'm gonna say this and this. Like, whoa, I'm catching myself like thinking I might marry him. Like, this is interesting, Tiffany. So I remember that distinct. This was all in my head. I didn't tell him this. But yeah, I think it was just kind of a slow, gradual thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's I'm sure like super helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you thought about why you teach? Because someone asked me this months ago, and I didn't really have an answer. All I knew was that I enjoyed it for some reason. And but yeah, I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, people have asked me that, and I think I like to say that like working in animation is my career and it's, my job. And I think teaching is one of my passions. And I think I can't remember which podcast I listened to, but they kind of delineated like a career versus a passion. I was like, oh, that makes sense for me. Like I think teaching is a passion of mine because one, I like meeting people from around the world. And two, I genuinely love the the challenge of explaining things, and when it clicks for someone else, it's almost like a win for me. And so I like the challenge of learning how to explain something in different angles and then also helping someone understand it. And I just learn a lot from teaching. Like I think a big part of why I like it is I learn in the process as well. So it's like a win-win situation for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And
Yeah.
I will have you send me links to where people can like take your classes and learn from you
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
after. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So,
Um, what makes a good or bad art director or production designer?
um, oh, my pen's not working. What makes a good or bad art director or I think I'm lucky enough to have not dealt with anyone like a bad art director or production designer. I think all the work experiences I've had have been really great. Like I loved my art director at Marvel, Ryan. He was awesome. I worked with him the most. Christina was great as well. I didn't work with her as much, but we're good friends now. And Paul the same was an amazing PD. And then here at Premise, Armand is my PD, and I think Armand is just because I work with him more directly, and I think he's honestly one of the best leaders out there. Like I've never seen someone keep their composure so well, but be able to like carry meetings with always a sense of humor and like always with an open-mindedness. And this is what I saw at Icon. Honestly, like I told him in Bing at Icon, like they have this sense of peace around them that I've never seen around people. I've never sensed around people before. And like, you and I both grew up in religious environments, and I never sensed that from my parents. It was like with my parents, it's like, yeah, like Bible, like read Bible, and then they would like blah 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 and fight like all the time. So there's this kind of this not connection for me that I was like, what? Like, like you say the Bible is supposed to bring you peace and you're not supposed to worry. And then I see you guys constantly worrying and fighting and about everything, about money and business and everything. And so um I think I see him carry that in his, personal life into his work as well. And I think it's really inspirational. So I think what makes a good PD is someone who recognizes the strengths of the people they hire and knows where to put them in and understands and checks in with them is like, hey, is their workload too much, is it too little, and treats them like people and not um like robots or something. So hopefully when I become an art director, like that's what I want to strive to do. Like I think I know that I'll be good at that. Like I love, I care about people a lot, and I think I really do care about people. So I want to make sure like if I become that one day, like I I will I will, exude that as well. Um, I think a good PD knows their boundaries and knows, what the most essential tasks are to give artists. And this is just me like observing people above me and stuff. And I think a bad PD is just someone who's like probably a tyrant and expects everyone to do. I mean, I haven't had experience with that, but I can imagine that's like you don't feel listened, and there's just insurmountable work expected. And I think the worst thing out of any studio is when you don't feel listened, because I think a studio is so collaborative and you don't feel listened. That's when people under you start to feel turned off, and you really don't want that in a team. So I think when you feel like you're generously giving to your team, they will generously give back to you, right? And I think that is really important.
Hmm. One thing you said, um, like when you are respected as an artist, like they hired you for you. So
Yeah,
they respect like your vision and what you can bring to the table. Um, to me, that's incredible feeling.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so that's great. Um, I know you said you haven't really had many bad experiences, but have you had any like issues or dealt with like difficult people on a project?
I'm lucky that I haven't so far, no.
Okay,
So
great.
when that happens, I'll let you know.
Yeah, we can do part two when that happens, then we
Yeah,
can.
as I know you have. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, these experiences are great for people to, I think, talk about. We don't really talk about it too
No, we
much.
don't.
So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um, are you a goal oriented person? Do you like set up goals for your day, for your week, month,
Mhm.
lifetime?
Yeah, I would say that I'm pretty goal oriented. So what I found for me is that I write down tasks that I have to hit, but I won't write down like specific times because I'm actually very spontaneous at the end of the day. So like sometimes I'll just switch my schedule like last minute, like something I don't feel like, you know, doing this, so I'll just switch it at a different time. I sound like a very person. I probably am, but I'm very emotional, that's for sure. Um, and so
And that's why you're good at making paintings full of emotion and capturing the feeling because you've
I
got all
guess
the
it goes
feelings.
both ways. Yeah, but I like to set like yes, I will set a year goal for myself, like roughly where I want to be, but I will say that I won't make myself feel terribly bad if I don't hit something because I understand and I've experienced the benefits of sort of embracing when things go a different way and then actually having it be better. So I've experienced that before. So I don't stress out too much if like things don't go exactly how I planned it. So I like that balance. Yeah.
Very healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
Um,
I go crazy.
I I think we kind of talked about this, but like struggling with depression ever, like is there anything
Uh
that like if you start feeling, maybe you don't, but if you do, like
oh
what's
no.
something that you do?
I don't think I've ever struggled with depression, but I've definitely struggled with burnout. It was the first time I experienced it was when I was running my mentorships and meeting with every single person for 2 hours. This was when I ran mentorships on my own while having a job, and it was just too much. Um,
Mm,
and I was burned out. So I wasn't depressed, but I was very burned out. Um, and then recently, yeah, I've been struggling with kind of like imposter syndrome and feeling like just overthinking it, like if am I doing enough? Am I like, what's this person gonna think of me? Like, what's that person gonna think of me? Blah, 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 blah. And I don't like those thoughts at all. Like they're just really not healthy. Um, is your question like what I do when that happens?
yeah, how do you get yourself out of that? Or maybe it's something that you haven't quite figured it out and you're still struggling with it.
I think talking to people that I trust in really helps. I'm not the kind of person that keeps stuff in. I'm pretty open, but I've also learned that you shouldn't tell everyone everything. So I think for me, just opening up to a couple of friends really helps me because the right friends can give you the right perspective and really kind of snap you out of it. And yeah, I think just doing s- something for yourself, whether that be art related or not. I think that's so important. So for me, it's like maybe for me, it's like starting on that art piece I've been thinking about, or baking this thing, or watching, or just like enjoying 20 minutes of a baking show that I love. That can just give you energy. But I think oftentimes we don't do that enough, and we're just like, and then we just like force ourselves to work more, and then we just get even more stressed out.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was not fun last week. It was just I was like, what's happening to me right now? Come on, Tiffany, pull it together. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and having a little group of friends that you can go to, that's
Friends are so important. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Close friends. Yeah.
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 Um, anything you're doing to prepare for the future of animation?
Yeah, I'm trying to learn more tools. That's my goal this year. So before I get completely booted out, but at least I can traditionally paint, right? So I can fall back on that, and no one can take that away from me, right? I can traditionally paint. But no, I'm trying to take more classes. I miss taking classes. I'm trying to widen my repertoire. Like you were saying how, you're sharing how you use Blender, and I know I need to get on that. Like I know Armin's big on, like VR, and that's something I've been wanting to learn too. I felt like slightly guilty. He hired me, and it's funny. I don't think I ever told him this, but I'll just say it on the air now. I was like, if he asked me one question about VR, I'm probably not going to know anything about it, but he didn't because I was just being hired for my colors. was like, "Oh, thank goodness," but I was low-key really scared, but I think I need to my goal is to broaden my skills, for sure,
Yeah.
just to keep learning. Yeah, yeah.
And I think, yeah, it's cool that you're thinking that way because you have your focus and then you can start to add in like, oh, maybe I learn a little bit of 3D and then you bring that
Yeah.
back to your color work. Like, how does that
Right,
help your
right.
colors? It'll make your paintings stronger or like, so yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool. I'm excited to see what
I
that
know.
does for you.
Yes, me too, me too. So I'm excited to have a break from teaching and actually be able to, um, tap into myself a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you worry about money being successful? And what does success mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do worry about money, oddly funny enough, even though I'm the one that I don't know, I'd say Jess and I both worry about money, but I think it's very interesting when you know, you date someone who comes from a different economical background from you. I think that shapes them a lot. And so, you know, shapes me a lot. And I think for me, it's really funny. So before when I was making like nothing, like 20K a year, just like teaching, that's it. Like, and just like little freelance jobs, hence living at home. Um, I felt I was like, I don't remember feeling like I wanted anything more, weirdly. And then when I realized how much you could make more, you know, like teaching and having multiple streams of income, that's when I started worrying about money. It's very strange. And so like after my first job at Marvel, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I never want to go back to making what I had before. Like I want to keep this." And then I started stressing like, am I going to get hired? Am I going to keep you know, like making this kind of money once I had a taste of it. And so that's when I think oddly I started worrying about money. I don't stress about it too much, I think. Like I think as long as I know I'm doing my due diligence of like investing, saving and you know, not spending more than I make. Um and then it's not like money's in the back of my mind, but I think success for me that's a good question that I haven't really thought about, but I don't think it's tied to money as much for me as I almost think success to me is like the more experiences I can get and maybe um the more experiences I can get that I can learn from, I think that's success for me. Like if I can look back and be like, wow, I've had, you know, this experience and I learned so much. That to me is a form of success to me that's unique to me. Like, for example, I worked on Loving Vincent. I got paid 1,000 a month. That's enough to live in Poland, not enough to live in San Diego, right? Like pea-sized money. But I was so happy and it was so fun. And that's an experience that was a success to me working on that film, even though my parents might not have thought so because like they thought it was a scam at first. And a lot of animation people still haven't watched the film. It's an indie film. So to a lot of people, that might not be success because it's not DreamWorks, Disney, whatever, Pixar, blah, blah, blah. Um, but that to me, no one can take that away from me because that was something that was really pivotal and shaped me. And then that helps me become a person that is not afraid to ask for things and just learn, you know, carve out opportunities for myself that maybe I wouldn't have had if I didn't have to, you know, if I just got a cozy job right off graduation and you know had a lot of things handed to me like maybe I wouldn't be the same person as I am now like I have had to carve out certain things for myself because of I was a really crappy artist in the beginning and I just had to build myself up to where I am now. Like I was a really bad artist. That's why I didn't get hired. That's like point blank. Like even though I had a lot of connections, I didn't get hired because I sucked and I can totally see that now. And so I think that journey, I can say that that was in a way partly a success for me, but I don't think I'm not a very materialistic person and you don't sound like you are either. Yeah,
No.
I don't tie success to that at all. Like materialistic things doesn't not click with me like one single bit. I was like, "Justin, don't buy me a ring because I will break it or lose it." Like I don't care for jewelry. I don't care for fancy clothes. could care less about a car. The only thing I care about is money to travel and then like buy books. So that to me would also be success. Yeah. Raising a family and all that stuff. Yeah.
That's yeah, that's all great. So good.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah, it
question then.
blows my mind, like coworkers who have like really high paying jobs, but they still live paycheck to paycheck. And
Right. Exactly.
it's like
Yeah.
we all knew getting into animation, it's such a it's like you're hired for this project for a few months. Sometimes you'll
Yeah.
get extended
Exactly.
for half a
Yeah.
year or a year, and then
Mm.
you're off the project. Then you got to find a new job. So you need to plan. Don't spend every single penny you make. Plan,
Right.
save for those times so you're not stressed out at the end of every movie.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's, that's definitely not talked about. And I think, there should be more finance classes. That's for sure. Um, And I'll just add another thing, like, I've noticed with, friends and all this other stuff and just, growing up noticing my own parents, it's like, it doesn't matter how much you make, I think. I mean, obviously enough to be comfortable, but you can be poor by, what other people's standards, but still be happy with your with your partner, or you can be filthy rich and not be happy because you don't agree on how to spend something. And so I've come to realize that it's so important to be on the same page with your partner on, like money psychology, whatever you call it, which is something I'm still learning. They say like money, what is it? Like the three things that, couples fight over, money and whatever the other two are, I forgot, but money is definitely one of them. And I think establishing the way you talk about that before you get married or before, you get engaged is really important because yeah, I can't imagine not doing that, Like people often talk about that stuff after they get married. And it's like, no, you should talk about like not right away when you start dating, but like obviously talk about these things and be and see if you can even talk about them. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's really important.
it's a great. Yeah. Okay, I have a few gouache related
Okay.
questions, and then we'll finish with that. Um, what colors are on your gouache palette? Like, I know nothing about gouache. I tried it once and I sucked at it. So these are like questions that people asked.
Oh, okay. So yeah, for if I want to keep it really simple, I like to say that my palette is white, obviously, lemon yellow, alizarin crimson, and ultramarine. So then from those, I can mix the secondary, the warm and cool primaries, and then the secondaries as well as yellow ochre. So I've gone out planar painting, just squeezing those because I'm too lazy to squeeze out all the other colors. Um, and if I want to expand, sometimes I'll linden green is a really important color. And I can send you a link to one of my videos, my YouTube videos that you can post in the comment or in the description section. I talk about my limited palette and then my expanded palette. But yeah, I would just add like more warming pools in the primaries and then some fun colors like brilliant green or Holbein pink or spectrum purple. So those are like fun colors that I add on. But it depends on my mood, really, or like what I'm painting. Like if I'm painting like the Bahamas and it's like clearly turquoise, I'll be like, all right, I gotta whip out my turquoise and just to get that nice color. But sometimes I don't have those colors, so I'm like, oh, I just stick with what I have and make it work. And that, was really cool. Wayne told me something. He spoke from my mentorship, and he said something that was so. And I wanted to try this, but he said that he lost all his colors at one point. So he was just stuck with like this bright pink and this blue and then white. And from those colors, he like made really awesome palettes. And then I said I wanted to try that and now I forgot. So now I need to remember to try that. I think it was
Sounds
Holbein
awesome.
though. Yeah. So you don't need a lot of colors. That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did a trip recently and I forgot blue, so I just did all my paintings with variations of warm. And
Yeah. There you go.
yeah.
That works too. Yeah. My friend is doing that with his painting. He's only working with warms and he says he's learning a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your best advice for beginner just getting into gouache? I know it's kind of open-ended, but if there's something that helped you in the beginning, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I would say for plein air painting, start off maybe indoors doing master studies because you don't have to deal with the elements. And I would say just getting comfortable with your paintbrush. Obviously, I always like to say use a 1 inch brush because that helps you simplify. So that's like my trademark. Actually, I got that from Mike, but it's kind of what I always like to implant in all my curriculums. Um, master studies using a big brush so that you don't get into detail. And I like to say start off with a smaller palette versus a bigger palette. And some people have said that's harder, but I like to say that you find freedom within limitations. Like within the limited colors that you have, you figure out how to mix your other colors and your grays, and then you get better at mixing. So, yeah.
That's awesome. What shade box do you use when you plein air?
I have Tad's box. I have like four,
I was like, you
but
better say
yeah,
Tad's a
yeah,
box.
yeah. I have Tad's box. I will admit though, I use the lately what I've been using because it fits in my backpack. Um, I actually have. Sorry, I use a friend. He also makes pochette boxes. His name is Leon Home, so it's thinner, and you can't actually fit stuff in it, which is the downside. So every box I have is like ups and downs. Um, but yeah, I use a friend's box that he made me. His name's Leon Holmes. He's an oil painter. But
Well,
you know what? Tad probably knows him. So
we won't post his link. I'll post the
yeah,
link to Tad's box.
there you go. I use Tad's box as well. So
Yeah.
you can use you of course, yes.
Yeah. What are some tips you have for making colors believable, unique, creative, fantastical? How do you keep those colors fresh in every piece? Part
You
of
know what
this
my
was
trick
when we
is?
talked about gray, I think, but
Yep. And my other trick is having a messy palette. I tell this all my so I don't clean my palette and people are amazed. I'll use it's funny, I have my palette's all dried up now, but I really like almost like building up a patina on on my box and just kind of like rewetting and reusing the colors. After a certain amount of time, you'll find that you need to clean off certain areas to get really pure colors. But I reuse grays all the time on my palette. So I'll just spray it. And that's how I actually get more interesting colors sometimes, I think.
hmm,
Yeah. Yeah. I have a very
interesting.
messy palette. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
guess
what's
that's a
cute.
benefit to gouache because you can re-wet it.
Yes, yes. So I can reuse colors. I will say you have to squeeze fresh colors still. I do waste a lot of paint, and I'm embarrassed saying that, but I do waste paint because it does dry and it's hard to reuse that. And so I will reuse the center area when I'm mixing, but I will always still squeeze fresh paint. Yeah.
Hmm, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then going from um, digital to gouache, is there any tips for that?
From digital to gouache, yeah, I would say start off small. Don't paint too big because, more real estate to cover can be more stressful. So I would say doing like 4x6 or 5x7 studies. That's always good. 1 inch brush. I would like to say have a 1 inch brush, a flat brush, and then a round brush because then you can get shaped and you can get lines, right? So it's kind of the best of both worlds. Um, and honestly, I mean, just have fun and don't think that your paintings have to turn out a certain way. I think that's like the one thing that can just make us so miserable, right? It's like we think something turns a certain way and then when it doesn't, it's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a failure or something." And then we get all down. So, I think in the very beginning when you're just playing around, I think it's so important to have fun. Go out and plein air paint as much as you can. Um and make it consistent because if you don't, if you try it once and then you like don't do it, you're going to forget the muscle memory and the skills, right? Right now, because I've been doing it for several years, I can paint for, I can maybe not paint for a couple months and it can still come back to me relatively quickly. But if you're starting out, consistency is so important. So like making that schedule, going out every day, which is what I did. That's what I did. I did a run and then I would paint and I was pretty disciplined and I got better faster that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. You have a book too.
I
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
can
Thanks
people buy
for
that online?
Yeah, so I'm doing my last print run and
Ooh,
right now I'm opening up for pre-orders. You have my book, right? Yes, I sent it to you.
Yes,
So,
I do. It's
yeah.
beautiful,
Oh, thank
and
you.
really inspiring. So
Oh, thank you.
you'll give me that link too. We'll have it in there.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
great. Yeah, so I'll send you a link to that. But yeah, I do have a book and it features all my gouache minis. So my 2x2 minis. I have 100 of those in the book, along with like 100 art tips. So
Mhm.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to add?
Um, I mean, gosh, there's so much we could talk about.
Well, we'll definitely do a part two, like
Oh,
down the
yeah.
road, if you want. Like,
No, that would be awesome. I I think is there anything I want to add? Just I always like to end with every time I do some interview or some written question thing, they're always the question is always like, what is one advice you would partake, to students?
yeah.
And I always like to say s- Justin just told me Justin
What
told
does
me
he
and
want
then
to add? You can
he
add some.
said he said just paint, which is really true.
Yeah.
That cracked me up.
Yeah.
Very good, Justin. Very good. Just paint. No, that's very good. Just paint. There you go. He said, get out there and paint. There, that's very true. Don't overthink it. Just paint. Actually, very good, Justin. Like oftentimes we
Wow.
overthink, right?
Justin saves the day at the
I
end.
know, right? I was like, oh, you're like, what do I say? And trying to make it all like smart sounding, but just paint. That's a good one to end with. Don't overthink it. You're gonna learn, you're gonna get better if you just keep painting. Be um be open and be um be curious. I think don't ever stop being curious. Talk to people, read books, go travel, meet new cultures. I mean, all that feeds into your identity as an artist, right? Um, and just paint. There you go. He said it well.
Yeah. Man, thank you so much for your time. Like you're such an inspiration, your work
Oh, Zach.
ethic and you're just going out there capturing the light and color and yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Zach. You have been such an inspiration and our inspiration. It was so awesome to catch up again in Icon, Manila, and then be able to do this talk with you. And it's just really, I think it's really great to know that I'm not the only one out there that feels, the voices in your head. And I think it's really cool that, you open up as well and we were able to talk about that. And I don't feel so alone anymore as well. So if you're feeling down, you can just tell. And I'll give you a pep talk. How about that? I think pep talks are really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks. Yeah, thank you for that conversation. It was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope we can see each other sometime. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I gotta come visit.
Yes. Oh, you'll love it here. You'll love it. You should bring Tad here. You should
Mm.
bring Tad. And like he would love painting the boats here, I think. Like we could
Oh
all do
yeah.
a planner session. So that would be really fun.
Yeah,
All right,
that'd be awesome.
I'm gonna bug you about it now. I'm trying to get like all my friends that they keep like, I'm gonna visit. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna keep you on it. And I just like keep reminding them
Yeah.
so they get tired of it. But yeah. Thank you,
Well,
Zach.
have a great run and
Thank you.
tell Justin I gotta meet him soon.
Yes. You guys would get along. Yeah.
Congrats on engagement. Have a great wedding and all of that. Super excited
Thank
for you.
you. Thank you so much. I'm excited too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
All right.
you.
I'll
Have a
see
good
you
Friday.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Where do I look? Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.